Story 1. Mom banned me from her wedding and canceled my birthday because of her fiance. So here's the thing. I'm Carly, 18, and I'm my mom's only daughter from her first marriage. She's got 3 younger kids with her new fiance, Greg, all teenage boys. And yeah, I thought I'd at least get to be part of her wedding since, I'm her actual daughter. But nah, things didn't go how I expected at all, and now I'm left wondering what the hell just happened. Anyway, last week, I overhear my mom, Lisa, talking to one of her friends about her wedding plans. She's been with Greg for about a year, and the wedding's set for December, the day before my birthday. I was pretty excited at first because my mom and I had been talking about a party for my birthday too, like we were going to make it a whole thing. So when I heard her discussing the bridesmaids' dresses with her friend, I thought, hey, maybe I'll be a bridesmaid or something. She hasn't mentioned anything yet, but surely I'm included, right? Wrong. So I casually ask her, hey, when are we going to look for my dress for the wedding? You know, just trying to bring it up because she hasn't said a word about it. And I swear to you, the look she gave me, it was like I just told her I ran over her dog. She looked all disappointed and weird for a second. Then she said, we'll talk about it later. Later comes around, and I'm sitting there waiting for this big talk about my dress. But instead, she pulls me aside and hits me with this. Greg thinks it would be better if his kids were more involved in the wedding. Now let me pause for a second. His kids? Really? They're not even girls, they're all teenage boys. And I'm supposed to be cool with them just swooping in and taking over a wedding that I thought I'd be a part of? But that's not the worst part. Nope, she drops this on me like it's no big deal. You're not going to be in the wedding. Not going to be in the wedding. Let that sink in. My own mother's wedding, and I'm not invited. Why? Because Greg doesn't like me. He thinks it would make things awkward with his family if I was there. And you know why? Because I look too much like my dad. Yep, you read that right. Apparently, my face is the problem. I look too much like my dad from her first marriage, and Greg doesn't want his family to feel uncomfortable. So I guess the solution was just to uninvite me completely. Like, that's going to fix everything. At this point, I'm sitting there in shock, trying to process what she just said. I didn't even know what to say at first. I thought maybe it was some kind of joke, but nah, she was dead serious. I tried to stay calm because, well, what else could I do? But inside, I was fuming. How could she just drop me like that? I've always been her daughter, and now I'm just not good enough? Anyway, I try to bring up my birthday again because that's something we'd been planning together for a while. The wedding's literally the day before my birthday, and we'd talked about having a party. But she tells me the birthday's canceled because she and Greg are going on their honeymoon the day after the wedding. So basically, my birthday's not happening anymore either. At this point, I lost it. I mean, what was I supposed to do? I yelled at her. I said, I'm sorry I don't look enough like you for you to love me. And yeah, that was harsh, but I was mad. And it's true. Ever since I was little, I've known I'm different because I look like my dad. My dad told me that after I was born, she had postpartum depression, and she never connected with me like she did with the kids she had with Greg. Those kids, they all look like Greg, and she's obsessed with them. Meanwhile, I've just been this reminder of her past. It sucks to admit, but it's true. She never really treated me the same. My brothers, though, they got lucky. They look more like her, so they've always had a better relationship with her. Me? I've been on the outside for as long as I can remember. So, after I yelled that at her, things just exploded. Greg storms into the room because apparently my mom was crying after what I said. He starts going off on me, saying I disrespected her and that I needed to leave. Like, what the hell? I'm her daughter and I'm the one getting kicked out? But whatever. I grabbed my stuff and left. I went to my dad's place. I couldn't stay there any longer. Not after what happened. My dad was pissed when I told him. He was ready to call CPS on them, saying they had no right to kick me out like that. But I begged him not to. I didn't want to make things worse, and I didn't want to drag my stepbrothers into it. They're not involved in this mess, and I don't want them to get caught up in it. Even though we don't have a close relationship, they're just kids, and this whole thing is already bad enough. Later that night, I texted my brothers. They found out what happened, and honestly, they were more upset than I thought they'd be. All 3 of them told me they weren't going to the wedding now either. That surprised me because they've always been way closer to her than I have. But I guess even they could see how messed up this whole situation was. Now my mom's even more pissed because she's losing her other kids for the wedding. But I don't care. I'm not trying to fix this anymore. I've spent too long trying to be good enough for her, trying to make her happy, and I'm just done. It's still hard, though. As mad as I am, part of me still wants her to care, to change her mind. But deep down, I know she won't. Greg's her priority now, and I'm just not. It sucks, but that's where things are. I've got my dad, I've got my brothers, and I'm going to focus on them. It's not like I need her approval anymore, right? So, after everything went down, I thought maybe things would cool off. Like, yeah, I blew up at my mom, but deep down I figured she'd come to her senses eventually, right? I mean, she's still my mom. I thought there'd be a call or a text, something to at least acknowledge how messed up things were. But instead, nothing. Complete silence from her. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself, it's fine. I don't need her to reach out. I've got my dad and my brothers. I'll just move on. But the more days that went by without hearing from her, the more it started to mess with my head. It's like, how do you go from planning birthday parties and talking wedding stuff to completely ghosting your own kid? So one day I'm hanging out with my brothers and we're all kind of avoiding the elephant in the room. None of us are going to the wedding. I can tell they're pissed, but they don't want to say much about it because it's a weird situation for all of us. They've always been closer to mom, and now it's like they're stuck between her and me. I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I'm angry too. Like, why do they get to have a relationship with her while I'm just tossed aside because I don't fit into her new, perfect family? At one point, my brother Josh asks if I've heard anything from mom, and I just laugh. Nah, not a single word. It's like I don't exist anymore. He gives me this sympathetic look, but I can tell he's torn. He doesn't want to say it, but I know what he's thinking. At least she still talks to us. And honestly, that hurts more than anything. I get why they're still in touch with her. They didn't say anything to get kicked out like I did, but it just feels like another reminder that I'm not as important to her. I try to brush it off, but later that night, after everyone goes to bed, I start scrolling through my phone, looking at old pictures. You know how it is. You start looking at one thing, and then, before you know it, you're going down a rabbit hole. I find all these photos from when I was younger, from before Greg was in the picture, and it's like looking at a completely different life. There's this one picture of me and my mom at my 10th birthday party. I'm grinning, and she's got her arm around me, smiling at the camera like we're the happiest people in the world. I don't even remember the last time we took a picture like that. It's like everything changed when Greg came into the picture. At first, I didn't think much of it. I mean, mom had been single for a while, so when she started dating him, I figured it was normal that she'd be focused on her relationship. But as time went on, it was like I became more and more invisible to her. Anytime I'd try to talk to her about something, she'd always bring it back to Greg or his kids. And when they started having kids together, it was game over. I wasn't part of the new family, and I knew it. The worst part is, I never really said anything about it. I didn't want to come off as bitter or jealous. I thought, this is what happens when your parent remarries. You just have to deal with it. But now, I'm wondering if I should have spoken up earlier. Maybe if I had, things wouldn't have gotten this bad. Maybe I wouldn't be sitting here staring at old photos, wondering why my own mom doesn't care about me anymore. Anyway, a few days go by, and my brothers and I are still avoiding the wedding topic. They haven't officially told mom they're not going, and I think they're hoping she'll reach out to them first so they don't have to make the decision themselves. It's like they're waiting for her to make the first move. I don't blame them, though. It's a tough spot to be in, and I know they're struggling with it too. Then one day, Josh calls me. He sounds weird, like something's up. And I can already tell it's about mom before he even says anything. He goes, Carly, you're not going to believe this. And I'm like, what now? Because honestly, at this point, nothing would surprise me. Apparently, mom called him and asked if he was still planning on coming to the wedding. When he told her he wasn't, she flipped. She started crying and saying how he was abandoning her and that she couldn't believe her own son would choose his sister over her. She kept saying how this was supposed to be the happiest time of her life and how she just wanted everyone to be there for her. Josh said he tried to explain that he couldn't support her treating me the way she did, but she wouldn't listen. She just kept going on about how it was all my fault that everything was falling apart. I wasn't even surprised. I mean, this is how she's always been, making everything about her. It's never her fault. It's always someone else who's to blame when things go wrong. And now she's putting the blame on me because her own kids don't want to go to her wedding? Yeah, okay. Josh told me he felt guilty, though. He didn't want to hurt her, but at the same time, he couldn't just ignore what she'd done to me. I get it. I don't want my brothers to feel like they have to pick sides, but it's hard when mom's acting like this. It's like she's forcing us all into a corner, and I hate that. So now, I'm stuck in this weird limbo where I'm not sure what to do next. I haven't heard from mom since Josh told her he wasn't going to the wedding, and part of me wonders if she's just given up on trying to make amends. Maybe she's too focused on her new life with Greg to care anymore. Or maybe she's waiting for me to reach out and apologize, which, yeah, that's not happening. I keep going back and forth in my head, wondering if I should have handled things differently. Should I have just kept my mouth shut? Should I have sucked it up and pretended like everything was fine? But then I remind myself that I shouldn't have to beg for my own mother's love and attention. I've spent enough time trying to make her happy, and it's never been enough. So why keep trying? In the end, I guess it doesn't matter what I do. Mom's made her choice, and I have to live with that. I can't change how she feels about me, and I'm done trying. Maybe it's time I start focusing on the people who actually care about me, my dad, my brothers, and stop worrying about someone who clearly doesn't. Update 1. So, after everything that's happened, I tried to distract myself from all the drama. I mean, there's only so much you can sit and think about before it just gets exhausting. But even when I'm trying to focus on other things, this whole situation with my mom is still there in the back of my mind. Like, I'll be doing something completely normal and then, boom, it hits me. My own mom doesn't want me at her wedding. How do you even wrap your head around that? But what really got me was when my dad sat me down for a conversation a few days later. He's usually pretty laid back, but I could tell something was bothering him. He goes, "Carly, we need to talk about your mom." And I'm like, great, just what I want to talk about. More of this mess. But he seemed serious, so I listened. Turns out my mom had reached out to him. Not to apologize, not to explain, but to complain. She told him that I'd ruined everything, that I'd turned my brothers against her, and that now the wedding was a complete disaster because none of her kids were going to be there. She actually said to him, if Carly hadn't thrown a fit, everything would have been perfect. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew she had a way of twisting things to make herself look like the victim, but to hear her flat out blame me for the mess she created, that hit hard. It's like she can't even take responsibility for her own decisions. She's acting like I'm the one who decided to uninvite myself from her wedding or something. My dad, being the good guy he is, tried to stay calm with her, but even he admitted that it was hard to listen to her go off like that. He told her, "Lisa, this isn't Carly's fault. You're the one who made her feel excluded. You need to fix this, not her." Of course, that didn't go over well. She just kept going on about how she'd already made her decision and that Greg's feelings came first. Now, I've heard that line a million times. Greg's feelings come first. It's like a broken record at this point. Ever since Greg came into the picture, it's been all about him and his family. If it's not what Greg wants, it doesn't happen. If Greg feels uncomfortable, we all have to bend over backward to make sure he's happy. And now, I guess that includes making me disappear from the wedding so his family doesn't get uncomfortable. What makes it worse is that, in her eyes, I'm the one causing all the drama. She's painting this picture where I'm the problem child, the one who's too difficult to deal with, and Greg's just the poor guy caught in the middle of all this chaos. And honestly, that hurts more than anything. I've spent years trying to be the good daughter, the one who doesn't make waves, and now I'm being blamed for everything falling apart. After talking with my dad, I started thinking about how things got to this point. Like, when did my relationship with my mom become so broken? I used to think it was because I look like my dad, and maybe that's part of it. But now I think it's more than that. It's like she's so caught up in building this perfect new life with Greg and his kids that there's no room for me in it. I'm this constant reminder of her past, of the life she had before Greg, and I guess she just doesn't want to deal with that anymore. But here's the thing. I'm still her daughter. No matter how much she tries to push me away, I'm not going to disappear just because it's more convenient for her. And I think that's what makes her mad. She can't just erase me, and it's easier for her to blame me for all the problems than to admit that maybe she's the one who's messed up. Anyway, after my dad and I talked, I started getting more texts from my brothers. They've been checking in with me a lot more, which I appreciate, but it's also been weird. I can tell they're struggling with this too, especially Josh. He's been pretty quiet lately, and when he does talk, it's always short and to the point. I think he's trying to keep things together, but I know he's hurt by what's going on with Mom. We all are. A few days later, Josh finally called me, and we had a real conversation. He told me that he'd been thinking a lot about the wedding, and that he felt bad for not telling Mom how he really felt. He said he wanted to stand up for me, but was scared of making things worse. And honestly, I get it. It's hard to stand up to someone when they've always had control over you. But Josh also told me something that I hadn't realized before. He said, "Carly, you've always been stronger than the rest of us. You're the only one who's ever really stood up to her. The rest of us just go along with it because it's easier, but you don't let her walk all over you." Hearing that kind of threw me off. I never thought of myself as the strong one. I just figured I was the one who couldn't keep quiet anymore. It made me think about how much we've all been putting up with over the years. My mom's controlling, yeah, but it's more than that. She's manipulative in a way that's hard to explain unless you've experienced it. She makes you feel like you're the problem, like you're the one who's always messing things up, and before you know it, you start to believe it. I've spent so long trying to be good enough for her, and it's exhausting. Josh told me that he's decided not to go to the wedding, not just because of what happened with me, but because he realized that it's not worth it to pretend like everything's okay when it's not. And hearing him say that made me feel less alone in all of this. It's like finally someone else sees what I've been dealing with. But then there's my other brother, Ben, who's still kind of on the fence. He hasn't said outright that he's not going, but I can tell he's thinking about it. He's always been the peacemaker in the family, the one who tries to keep everyone happy, and I think he's struggling with the idea of letting mom down. But at the same time, he knows what she did to me was wrong. He just doesn't know how to handle it yet. So now, we're all in this weird limbo, waiting to see what happens next. The wedding's coming up soon, and none of us are sure how things are going to play out. Part of me hopes that maybe, just maybe, my mom will realize how messed up this all is and try to fix things. But I'm not holding my breath. She's too far down the Greg rabbit hole to see what's right in front of her. All I know is, I'm not going to let her make me feel like I'm the bad guy anymore. I'm done playing that role. If she wants to choose Greg over her own kids, that's on her. But I'm not going to sit around and let her blame me for the fallout. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. Update 2. So, after Josh told mom he wasn't going to the wedding, things got real awkward. It wasn't just about me anymore. Now she had to deal with the fact that none of her kids were backing her up. And honestly, part of me felt guilty. Like, yeah, I didn't want to go, but I didn't expect my brothers to completely ditch her too. It's just, everything feels so messed up now, and it's hard to know what the right thing is anymore. I hadn't heard from mom at all, and the silence was getting weird. She was basically pretending like we didn't exist. No calls, no texts, nothing. But then, out of nowhere, Ben calls me one night. He's the peacemaker, like I said before, and I could tell something was up just from the tone in his voice. "Carly, we need to talk about mom," he said. Great, here we go again, I thought. Apparently she called him and tried to guilt trip him into coming to the wedding. Classic mom move, really. She laid it on thick, saying stuff like, "You're my son, Ben, I've always been there for you. How could you do this to me?" The usual emotional manipulation. Ben's always been the one who struggled the most with standing up to her, and I could hear in his voice that it was getting to him. "I just don't know what to do," he admitted. "I don't want to hurt her, but I also can't stand what she did to you. This whole thing feels wrong." And that's when I realized how deep the damage went. It wasn't just about me getting kicked out of the wedding or mom choosing Greg over us. It was about how for years she's been playing these mind games, making us all feel like we have to earn her love. And now it's all coming to a head because she's finally gone too far. I told Ben, "Look, you don't owe her anything. She made this mess, not you. If you don't feel right about going to the wedding, then don't go. But don't let her make you feel guilty for something that's her fault." Ben was quiet for a while, and I could tell he was wrestling with it. I get it. We've all been conditioned to think that making mom happy is the most important thing. But at what cost? At some point, you have to stop sacrificing your own happiness for someone who doesn't care about yours. After that conversation with Ben, I started to realize just how much of our lives had been shaped by mom's control. It wasn't just about her wedding or Greg. It was about how she'd always made us feel like we weren't good enough unless we were doing exactly what she wanted. And now, I was finally seeing it for what it was: manipulation. But it wasn't until I talked to Josh again that I really started to understand how deep this went. Josh called me a couple of days after Ben and I had our talk, and he sounded different, like something had shifted for him. "Carly, I've been thinking about everything," he started. "About mom, about how she's treated you, treated all of us. And I think I'm done." I didn't really know what he meant at first, so I asked, "Done with what?" "With her," he said. "I'm done letting her control my life. I'm done pretending like I don't see what she's doing. This whole thing with the wedding, it's just the final straw. I can't keep pretending like everything's fine when it's not." Hearing that from Josh was a shock, honestly. Out of all of us, he'd always been the one who was the closest to mom. He used to defend her, even when things were tough between her and me. So for him to say that, it hit hard. But it also made me realize that this wasn't just my fight anymore. We were all caught up in this mess, and we were all finally seeing things for what they were. We talked for a long time that night, and Josh opened up in a way he hadn't before. He told me about all the little ways mom had made him feel like he wasn't good enough, like he always had to prove himself to her. And the worst part was, he never even realized it until now. He just accepted it as normal. Like that's how a mother was supposed to be. But now, with everything happening, he couldn't ignore it anymore. "It's like, I've been blind this whole time," he said. "And now that I see it, I can't unsee it. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again. I felt the same way. It's like once the curtain gets pulled back, there's no going back to how things were before. You can't pretend everything's fine when you know it's not. That conversation with Josh really changed things for me. It made me realize that this wasn't just about me being hurt by mom's actions. It was about all of us coming to terms with the fact that our relationship with her was built on manipulation and control. And now we had to figure out how to move forward without letting her keep that power over us. The next few days were quiet. None of us talked to mom, and I think she was starting to realize that we weren't going to cave. But then, she showed up at my dad's house one evening. Yeah, she just showed up unannounced, like nothing had happened. I wasn't expecting it, and when I opened the door to see her standing there, I didn't know what to say. She looked tired, like the whole thing was wearing her down. But I wasn't about to feel sorry for her. Not after everything. Can we talk? She asked, her voice softer than I was used to. I hesitated, but I nodded and stepped aside to let her in. We sat down in the living room, and there was this awkward silence for a while. I didn't really know what she was doing here, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever conversation was about to happen. Finally, she spoke. I didn't realize how much this wedding was hurting you, she said. I didn't I didn't mean for things to get this bad. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she didn't mean for any of this to happen. But at the same time, I couldn't just let it go, not after everything she'd put me through. So I just sat there waiting to see what else she had to say. I've been so focused on Greg and trying to make this wedding perfect, she continued. I didn't stop to think about how it was affecting you. I was still quiet, not sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her that it was too late for apologies. But another part of me was just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of feeling like I had to prove myself to her. I want to make things right, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to lose you. And that's when it hit me. She was scared. For the first time in a long time, she was actually scared of losing me. And while I appreciated the sentiment, I wasn't sure if it was enough to fix everything. Update 3. After that awkward talk with my mom, I thought maybe things would shift a little. Maybe she'd try harder, show that she really cared, you know? Like, I didn't expect everything to magically be fixed, but I guess I hoped for some kind of real effort. But surprise, it didn't exactly go that way. She left my dad's place that day with this promise of making things right. And for a few days, I waited. I kept my phone close, thinking maybe she'd call or at least send a text to try and follow up. But no, nothing. It was like that little conversation we had was just another attempt for her to feel like she'd done her part, without actually doing anything. The wedding was getting closer, and I still hadn't heard from her. Neither had my brothers. Josh was pretty much done at this point. He told me he didn't care if she ever reached out again. He was finished with all her guilt trips and emotional manipulation. Ben, though, he was still struggling. He kept saying stuff like, maybe she's just stressed with the wedding planning, like he was trying to justify her actions. But even he wasn't sure anymore. The silence was too loud. Then one afternoon, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was spam, but when I opened it, my stomach sank. It was from Greg. He sent this long message about how I needed to apologize to my mom, how she was hurting because of everything I'd said, and how it was on me to fix this if I wanted any relationship with her in the future. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking a little. I couldn't believe it. This guy had the nerve to message me, telling me to apologize to her, like I was the one who needed to make things right. I didn't even know how to respond. Part of me wanted to throw my phone across the room, but the other part of me just felt numb. It was like nothing I did or said would ever be enough for her. I'd always be the one in the wrong, the one who had to fix things. I showed the message to Josh, and he was furious. Don't you dare respond, he said. That's just another way for them to try and make you feel like crap. You don't owe them anything. And he was right. I didn't owe them a damn thing. Not after everything they'd put me through. So I blocked Greg's number. I wasn't going to let him or my mom push me around anymore. But even though I knew I was doing the right thing by cutting them off, it still hurt. A lot. The idea that my own mom was siding with this guy, letting him talk to me like that, it was like a punch to the gut. I kept thinking back to all the times I'd tried to be the good daughter, to make her proud, and it never mattered. In the end, Greg was all that mattered to her. The days kept ticking by, and the wedding was only a week away. At this point, none of us had any intention of going. Josh and I had made up our minds, and even Ben was starting to come around to the idea that maybe staying away was the best choice. But then, 3 days before the wedding, I got another surprise. This time it was from my dad. He came home from work one night looking more tired than usual. He sat me down and told me that Mom had reached out to him again. But this time, it wasn't just to complain. She wanted him to come to the wedding. Yeah, you read that right. My mom, who had been completely ignoring me and my brothers, suddenly decided that she wanted my dad, the guy she divorced years ago, the guy she basically treated like dirt for the last decade, to show up at her wedding to Greg. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why would she want you there? I asked. My dad shrugged, but I could tell he was as confused as I was. She said something about wanting to keep the peace for the sake of the kids, he told me. I don't know what she's thinking, Carly, but I told her no. Hearing that made me feel a little better. I don't know what kind of game my mom was playing, but I was glad my dad wasn't falling for it. He'd always been the one who tried to protect us from her manipulations, even when it put him in a tough spot. And now, he was standing up for me, for all of us. The wedding day finally rolled around, and it was weird. Like I knew it was happening, but it didn't even feel real. I stayed home with my brothers, and we didn't talk about it much. It was like this unspoken agreement that we weren't going to let her wedding ruin our day. We hung out, watched some movies, ordered pizza, and tried to act like it was just another Saturday. But deep down, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop wondering what was happening over there, what my mom was thinking, if she even noticed that her own kids weren't there. Part of me wanted to believe that she'd finally realize how much she'd messed up. But I knew better. She was probably too wrapped up in her perfect day with Greg to care. Later that night, after my brothers had gone to bed, I found myself scrolling through old photos again. I don't know why I kept doing it, but it was like I couldn't stop torturing myself. There was this one picture of me and my mom from a few years ago. We were at the beach, and I had my arm around her. We both looked so happy. It didn't even feel real anymore, like that version of us was from a different life. I guess that's the hardest part. Realizing that the person you thought your mom was, the relationship you thought you had, was never really what you thought it was. I kept holding on to this idea that things could go back to the way they were, that if I just tried hard enough, she'd see me again, care about me again. But the truth is, she'd made her choice a long time ago. The next morning, I woke up to a message from an unknown number. For a second, I thought it might be her, reaching out after the wedding. But when I opened it, it was just a photo of her and Greg, all dressed up at their wedding, smiling like everything was perfect. And that's when I knew. I knew she wasn't going to change. She was too far gone. Greg had her wrapped around his finger, and I wasn't going to waste any more time waiting for her to realize what she'd lost. So I deleted the photo, blocked the number, and went downstairs to join my brothers for breakfast. It was time to move on. Story 2. This story is titled, My Bride Ghosted Me. 2 weeks before our wedding for a secret trip with her college friends, she came back acting normal, but I was ready with the truth. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey guys, so this is something I never thought I'd post here, but life's been hitting me like a truck lately, and I just need to get it all out. My name's Jackson, I'm 27, male, and up until 2 weeks ago, I thought I had everything sorted. I was supposed to be getting married to my fiancée, Rachel, 26 female. Someone I'd been with for 7 years. 7 years, man. That's almost a quarter of my life. My life was supposed to be simple. Marry the love of my life, build a future together, and live happily ever after. You know, the whole fairy tale thing. Let me give you some context. Rachel and I met in college. She was a freshman, and I was a sophomore. I'll never forget the first time I saw her. She was sitting on the campus lawn with her friends, laughing at something, and she just had this glow about her. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly brighten it up. We started dating after a few casual study sessions that weren't so much about studying as they were about me finding excuses to spend time with her. Over the years, we went through all the highs and lows, final exams, job hunts, that weird phase where I thought growing a beard would make me look rugged. It didn't. She was my rock, the one person I could count on no matter what. Fast forward to this year, and I finally decided to propose. We'd talked about marriage before, and I knew she wanted it, but I wanted to wait until I could give her something special. When I popped the question at the diner where we had our first date, she cried and said yes before I could even finish asking. It was one of those moments you never forget. After that, It was all about wedding planning. Let me tell you, if you've never planned a wedding, you have no idea how chaotic it can be. I mean, the sheer number of decisions you have to make: venue, caterers, flowers, tablecloth colors, and don't even get me started on the seating chart. Rachel was a perfectionist, so every little detail had to be just right. It was stressful, sure, but seeing how excited she was made it worth it. We'd settled on a small garden venue outside the city. It wasn't extravagant, but it was beautiful. Everything was locked in. Invitations sent, RSVPs coming in, and our families already in town to help. Rachel's mom was basically living at our house, and my mom had turned the living room into some kind of arts and crafts workshop. Rachel and I had been up late the night before, finalizing the seating chart. She was adamant about not putting her college friends near the DJ because they'll make it impossible for anyone else to enjoy the music. I joked that they'd just bring the energy, but she gave me one of those playful but serious looks, and I caved. Typical Rachel, stubborn, but always with a smile. Honestly, it wasn't just about the seating chart. Lately, it felt like her friends were becoming more important than us. She started spending more nights out with them, brushing me off with, "You don't mind, do you?" Of course, I said I didn't. I didn't want to seem controlling, but it stung when she'd blow off dinner plans with me to hang out with them instead. That night, we laughed and talked about how crazy everything had been, but there was one thing that stuck out. Rachel kept glancing at her phone, smiling at messages, and quickly locking the screen when I looked her way. I didn't ask. Why would I? I trusted her. But now I can't help but wonder what she was hiding. It wasn't the first time Rachel had just left without saying much. She'd started doing that more often lately, heading out early for coffee or errands, barely leaving a note. I figured it was her way of coping with the stress. But now I realize it wasn't about stress at all. I got up, made some coffee, and waited for her to come back. By the time an hour passed, I started to wonder where she was. I shot her a quick text. "Morning? Where'd you head off to?" No response. Maybe she got caught up running errands? Rachel wasn't the type to just vanish, so I didn't let it bother me too much. I decided to get started on my own to-do list for the wedding. We still had to double-check the caterer, finalize the music playlist, and pick up the wedding favors we'd ordered weeks ago. But by the time lunch rolled around and I still hadn't heard from her, I started to feel uneasy. I texted her again, "Hey, everything okay? Haven't heard from you all morning." Still nothing. That's when I called her. It went straight to voicemail. Now, that was weird. Rachel always had her phone on her, especially when things were this busy. My first thought was that maybe she'd forgotten to charge it, but even then, she'd usually text me from someone else's phone or leave a note if she'd be gone for a while. I called her mom next, thinking maybe she was with her. Her mom sounded surprised when I asked. No, she didn't say anything to me. "Isn't she with you?" That didn't help my anxiety. Her dad didn't know where she was either. Neither did her sister, who was staying at her parents' house to help with the wedding. At this point, I was pacing the living room, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. Maybe she just needed some space? I mean, weddings are stressful. But even then, Rachel would have told me. When dinner time came and she was still nowhere to be found, I was a wreck. My mind was jumping to the worst conclusions, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. That's when I realized that her car also wasn't in the driveway. She'd vanished completely. I stood there, staring out the window like an idiot, trying to piece together what this meant. My first thought was that maybe she'd taken off somewhere unexpected, maybe to clear her head or deal with some wedding jitters. But the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Rachel wasn't the type to ghost anyone, especially not 2 weeks before our wedding. I went back upstairs and started looking around, hoping to find some kind of clue. Her clothes were still in the closet, her shoes lined up neatly by the door, her suitcase still in the corner, untouched. If she had left, she hadn't packed for it. Her purse was gone, though, along with her phone charger, which I hadn't noticed before. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my heart racing. I tried calling her again. Voicemail. At this point, I was starting to feel a mix of worry and frustration. Where could she possibly be? I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through our recent texts, trying to find any hints that she might have dropped. Nothing. Our last conversation had been about seating arrangements, and there was no sign of her feeling off or upset. It was just normal. That's when I decided to start calling her friends. First up was Brittany, her closest college friend. Straight to voicemail. Then I tried Ashley, another one of her friends. No luck. One by one, I called every single one of her close friends, but none of them answered. It was like they'd all vanished along with her. At this point, I was on edge. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, and I wasn't just imagining it. I called her mom again to let her know the update. She tried to reassure me, but I could tell she was just as worried as I was. "Maybe she'll show up soon," she said, her voice shaky. I hung up and tried to distract myself, but it wasn't working. I ended up pacing around the house, phone in hand, checking it every 2 minutes like it was a lifeline. I kept thinking, what if something happened to her? My brain went to dark places. A car accident? Abduction? I even started Googling news reports for any sign of an incident in our area, but there was nothing. By 9 p.m., I was sitting on the couch, completely drained. I'd gone through every possible scenario in my head, and none of them added up. My thumb hovered over the number for the police station. Reporting her missing felt drastic, but what else was I supposed to do? That's when my phone buzzed. It was Eric, my best friend. He sent me a text that made my stomach drop. Dude, what is Rachel doing in Mexico? Mexico? What? I quickly typed back, what are you talking about? He didn't answer right away, which only made me more anxious. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, another text came through. Check Instagram. Brittany's story. My hands were shaking as I opened the app. I hadn't been on social media all day, too caught up in my own spiral of worry. I searched for Brittany's profile, and sure enough, her latest story was tagged in Mexico. I clicked on it. There they were, Rachel and her college friends, lounging by the pool at some fancy resort, drinks in hand, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. My fiancée, the woman I thought I'd be marrying in 2 weeks, was on a beach vacation in another country. I stared at the screen, feeling like the wind had been knocked out of me. She looked happy, carefree even. Meanwhile, I'd been at home losing my mind, thinking something terrible had happened to her. I went through Brittany's story frame by frame, trying to piece things together. The first clip was a wide shot of the group by the pool, Rachel in the middle, wearing that floral swimsuit she'd bought just a few months ago. The next one showed them clinking glasses, the caption reading, "Reunion vibes, reunion." Then came a shot of the resort itself, tagged in big bold letters, Cancun, Mexico. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, confusion, betrayal? I was stuck somewhere in between, staring at my phone like it had personally insulted me. I texted Eric again. WTF is this? He replied almost instantly. I don't know, man. Thought you already knew. My mind was racing. Rachel never mentioned anything about a reunion. We'd been together every day leading up to this. There was no way she would have planned something like this without me noticing, or so I thought. I sent Rachel a text, keeping it short and to the point. Where are you? No response. I sent another one, this time angrier. I know you're in Mexico. Call me. Now. Still, nothing. I stared at my phone, waiting for any sign of life from Rachel. My texts sat there, unanswered, like a slap in the face. Each passing second made me angrier. How could she just leave without telling me? No note, no text, nothing. The sheer lack of basic decency was infuriating. We were 2 weeks away from the wedding. 2 weeks. And instead of being here with me, planning the day we'd been dreaming about for years, she was on a beach in Mexico with her friends, completely ignoring me. I didn't even know how to process it. I thought about everything I'd given to this relationship. 7 years. 7 years of being her rock, her cheerleader, her everything. I'd been there for her through every bad grade, every tough job hunt, every family drama. When she wanted to switch careers, I picked up extra shifts to help cover the bills. When she needed space to focus on herself, I gave it to her without question. I wasn't perfect, but I'd always been there. And now? Now I was sitting alone in our house, completely in the dark, while she was off gallivanting like she didn't have a care in the world. I couldn't wrap my head around it. The sheer disrespect was mind-blowing. I picked up my phone again and sent another text, this time letting all my frustrations spill out. This a copy of the message. Rachel, let me make this clear. I don't tolerate being ignored. You didn't just pack up and leave. You disrespected me and everything we've been building. Sneaking off to Mexico and then ignoring me? That's not something I'm ever going to accept. We're supposed to be getting married in 2 weeks, but you've already shown me what your priorities are. And it's not us. If you're not on the next flight home, consider the wedding canceled. The choice is yours. I'm serious. I stared at the screen for a moment, debating if I should send it, but the anger bubbling inside me wouldn't let me back down. I hit send. Still nothing. I sat there, staring at my phone like an idiot, waiting for the reply that never came. Minutes turned into hours, and with each tick of the clock, my anger grew sharper, hotter. Who does this? Who ignores the person they're supposed to marry, especially after pulling a stunt like this? The fury started twisting into something worse, hurt. How could she so dismissive? How could she treat me, the guy who's done everything for her, like I didn't even matter? By the time my phone buzzed late that evening, hours after I'd reached out, she finally decided I was worth a second of her time. Rachel, at last. Too bad I wasn't in the mood to play nice anymore. I answered immediately, my voice sharp. Where the hell are you? Her response was so casual it made my skin crawl. I'm in Mexico. I told you I was going on this trip. You what? I said, my voice rising. Rachel, you didn't tell me anything. You just disappeared. No text, no note, nothing. I thought something had happened to you. She sighed, like I was being dramatic. I didn't think it was a big deal. My friends planned this as a reunion, and I didn't want to disappoint them. They went all out for me, Jackson. Disappoint them? I shot back. What about disappointing me? The guy you're supposed to be marrying in 2 weeks? Do you have any idea what this looks like? It's just a trip, she said, her tone dismissive. I'll be back in a few days, and we can move on. You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. My hands clenched into fists as I tried to keep my composure. Rachel, this isn't just about the trip. It's about the fact that you ghosted me. You didn't think I should be informed where you were going? Or that you'd be gone for days? I didn't ghost you, she said defensively. I just didn't tell you. I knew you'd react like this, so I thought it'd be easier to just go. React like what? Like a man who deserves basic respect from his fiancée? I said, my voice cold and steady. Rachel, we're supposed to be partners, but you don't seem to understand what that means. You're acting like a single woman with no responsibility. You don't get to make decisions like this on your own and expect me to just go along with it. She let out an exaggerated sigh. They told me last minute, Jackson. I didn't have time to explain everything, okay? I don't see why you're making this such a big deal. It's just a few days. I'll be home soon. Can we not turn this into some huge drama? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My voice hardened. This isn't about drama, Rachel. It's about basic respect. You think last-minute excuses justify sneaking off without a word? Do you even understand what it means to be a partner? I've given everything to this relationship, sacrificed for us, and 2 weeks before the wedding, this is what you decide to do? Unacceptable. She stayed silent for a moment, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she was starting to understand how badly she'd messed up. But then she said, I needed this trip. My friends planned it, and I didn't want to hurt their feelings. I'm sorry if that upset you, but I'm not coming home early. I was floored. I said strictly, hear me out. If you don't come back on the next flight, there's no wedding or a man to come back to. Her tone shifted, growing colder. I'll be back in a few days. Let's talk about it then. You're overreacting. Before I could respond, she hung up. I stared at my phone, disbelief washing over me. She wasn't just dismissing my feelings, she was doubling down on her selfishness. I'd poured everything I had into this relationship, and now it felt like she was throwing it all away. For the first time, I started to question if I really knew the person I was about to marry. That thought lingered as I sat in the quiet of the house we'd made a home. Rachel's voice, dismissive and cold, echoed in my head. You're overreacting. Overreacting? Was I? Part of me wanted to believe her, to tell myself that this was just stress, a temporary lapse in judgment. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how deliberate her choices had been. This wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal of trust. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, replaying our conversation, trying to figure out if there was ever a time I treated her with the same disregard she showed me. I couldn't think of a single moment. I thought about all the times I canceled plans with my friends just to be with her, how I always put her first. And now, here I was, feeling like an afterthought. But if this is how she acts now, 2 weeks before our wedding, how am I supposed to trust her later? Marriage is about being a team, and it's clear she's not someone I can rely on when it actually counts. The more I thought about it, the more I realized, someone like her just doesn't fit in the kind of life I'm trying to build. By the time the sun came up, it was obvious she wasn't coming back, and I wasn't going to sit around waiting anymore. I flipped the switch into full-on action mode. I knew exactly what I had to do. The first call I made was to the venue. My voice was calm, steady, like I'd already decided this 100 times over in my head. I need to cancel the wedding, I told the coordinator. There was a pause, then a quiet, I'm sorry to hear that. It wasn't just the venue. One by one, I called every vendor we'd booked. The caterer, the photographer, the DJ. Each call chipped away at me a little more, but I forced myself to push through. I had to. The wedding couldn't go on, not after this. Of course, canceling wasn't cheap. I paid the penalties and cancellation, watching as thousands of dollars disappeared in an... Money wasn't even the issue. It was the finality of it all. Each payment felt like a nail in the coffin of the life I'd been building with Rachel for the past 7 years. When the calls were done, I turned my attention to the guest list. Some of them were Rachel's friends who were with her on that trip. I drafted a message to let everyone know the wedding was off. I didn't sugarcoat it, but I kept it straightforward and respectful. I won't copy and paste the exact words here, but I explained enough for people to understand. That Rachel had made choices that showed me this relationship wasn't what I thought it was, and I couldn't go through with it. Once I hit send, there was no turning back. Some replies were immediate. A few people sent their support, saying I was brave for standing up for myself. Others were more cautious, asking if there was a chance to work things out. One person, Rachel's college friend Brittany, had the audacity to respond with, "Wow, you're really airing your dirty laundry like this? Immature much?" I didn't reply. I didn't have the energy. My parents, however, were less understanding. When I told them what I'd done, their reactions hit me like a freight train. "You canceled the wedding?" my mom said, her voice sharp with disbelief. Without even waiting for her to come back and explain, She's in Mexico with her friends, Mom, I said, trying to stay calm. She didn't tell me, she ghosted me, and now she's refusing to come home. What was I supposed to do? Talk to her, she said firmly. You've been together for 7 years, Jackson. You don't just throw that away because of one mistake. She didn't make a mistake, I shot back. She made a choice. A deliberate choice to lie to me and put herself first. My dad, who'd been silent up until this point, finally chimed in. We're not saying what she did was right, but you're making a big decision in the heat of the moment. Maybe give it some time before you finalize anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own parents, the people who'd always supported me, were now questioning my judgment. It made me feel like I was on an island, isolated and alone. The situation only got more complicated when Rachel's parents showed up later that evening. They looked confused, hurt, and desperate for answers. Jackson, her mom said as soon as I opened the door. What's going on? Rachel hasn't told us anything. All we know is that the wedding's off. I invited them in, and we sat in the living room. I explained everything. The trip, the lies, the way she brushed me off when I confronted her. Her dad's face grew darker with every word, while her mom's eyes filled with tears. I don't understand, her mom said. She was so excited about the wedding. Why would she do something like this? I wish I had an answer for you, I said honestly. But the truth is, I don't even know who she is anymore. Her dad shook his head, his jaw tight. We'll talk to her. She needs to come home and fix this. Good luck with that, I muttered, bitterness creeping into my voice. She didn't listen to me, and she's not answering your calls either, is she? They stuck around a little longer, but honestly, there wasn't much left to say. When they finally left, the silence was heavy, but I didn't mind it. I needed the space to think. Sure, doubt crept in for a moment. 7 years isn't easy to walk away from. But then I reminded myself, respect isn't negotiable, and I'm not about to settle for someone who doesn't get that. Still, part of me wonders, do you guys think I overreacted by canceling the wedding? Should I have waited, let her explain everything in person? Or was I right to stand my ground? I know I can't ignore the signs, but sometimes it's hard to not second guess yourself. Anyway, I'll update if anything changes. Thanks for reading, and let me know what you think. Would you have done the same? Update 1. Hi guys. Before I jump into the update, let me address some of the comments calling me overreacting or immature for calling off the wedding. Look, I get it. Maybe from the outside it seems dramatic. But let me ask you this. How many of you would be cool with your fiancé disappearing 2 weeks before the wedding, lying about where they are, and ignoring your calls? This isn't just a one bad decision kind of thing. It's a respect thing. If you think I should have just shrugged and said, no big deal, honey, enjoy your secret getaway, then, well, good luck with that in your own relationships. Me? I'm not about to spend the rest of my life wondering if I matter to the person I'm with. And this update will just prove me right. Anyway, on to the juicy part. So the other day, Eric texted me again. Bro, it gets worse, the message read. Attached was a screenshot of another Instagram story. It wasn't on Brittany's profile, though. It was on Rachel. But here's the thing. I couldn't see it on my account because she'd put it on her close friends list, and apparently I wasn't on it. The screenshot showed Rachel sitting at an outdoor table, holding hands with someone. The caption read, "Some things never change." My stomach sank. I zoomed in on the picture, and that's when I saw him. David, her ex. And just like that, everything clicked into place. The lies, the casual dismissal, the trip itself, none of it was about stress or relaxation. It was about him. Apparently, Rachel hadn't just gone to Mexico with her friends. She'd gone to reconnect with her past, with the guy she used to date before me, the guy she had always brushed off as just a part of my life before we met. I felt a new wave of anger flood through me. Any doubt I'd been carrying about canceling the wedding disappeared in an instant. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't making a mistake. Rachel had made her choices, and they showed me exactly where her priorities were. Then my phone buzzed again. Rachel was calling. I didn't feel the urge to pick up. I let it ring until it stopped, and then it started again. I ignored that one too. A few minutes later, the texts started coming in. The first one was short and desperate. I wish this was a joke. I didn't reply. She wanted this to be a joke? Fine. She turned our relationship into one, so maybe it was fitting. Around that time, her friends started trashing my name to anyone who would listen. I started hearing through mutuals that I was controlling and immature for calling off the wedding. They said I overreacted, that I couldn't handle Rachel having her own life. The irony wasn't lost on me. These were the same friends who encouraged her to lie and sneak off in the first place. I ignored it, but the audacity of them trying to make me the villain just added fuel to the fire. But when the calls and texts didn't work, Rachel must have realized she wasn't going to get through to me that way. The next day, I heard her car pull up outside the house. It seemed that the trip was over, and I didn't have to check to know it was her. I stayed where I was, sitting in the living room, waiting. The doorbell rang, and then there was constant knocking. Jackson! Rachel's voice cracked through the door. Please, just let me in. We need to talk. I took a deep breath, walked to the door, and opened it. I didn't step aside. I stood in the doorway, blocking her path. My arms were crossed, my face calm but firm. Rachel looked like a mess. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes red from crying. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Please, Jackson, we need to talk. You can't just do this. We're supposed to get married in 2 days. There's no wedding, I said, my voice steady and cold. You made sure of that. Her face crumpled as she shook her head. No, this isn't right. We've been together for 7 years. You can't just throw that away. Throw it away? I let out a bitter laugh. Rachel, you threw it away. You threw it all in the trash when you lied to me, when you left without telling me, and when you decided this trip was more important than us. She tried to interrupt, but I wasn't done. Do you even understand what you've done? I gave you everything, Rachel. I supported you when no one else did. I stood by you when you doubted yourself. And this is how you repay me? By sneaking off to Mexico with your friends and ignoring me like I'm some inconvenience, like I'm nothing? Her tears flowed harder. It wasn't like that, she said weakly. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to hurt me? I repeated, my voice sharp. You knew exactly what you were. You knew this would hurt me, and you did it anyway, because you only cared about what you wanted. She reached out, but I stepped back, holding up a hand to stop her. Don't, I said firm. She stared at me, desperation written all over her face. I love you, Jackson. Please, you have to believe me. You just what? I cut her off sharply. Needed to relax? Needed to connect? Or maybe you needed to parade around with your ex and broadcast it like it was some kind of trophy moment. Her face drained of color. I didn't mean for that to happen. But it did, I said coldly, keeping my voice steady and firm. And it wasn't just me you disrespected. You embarrassed me, dragged my name through the dirt, and made me look like a fool to everyone. Do you even understand the weight of what you've done? Or is accountability just a foreign concept to you? She broke down, her sobs echoing through the doorway. I just wanted to say goodbye to him, she whispered. Goodbye? I repeated. Rachel, you're supposed to be marrying me. What the hell do you need to say goodbye to your ex for? She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. It wasn't about him, Jackson. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I needed closure before we started our new life together. At that point, I felt nothing but contempt. You've had 7 years to get closure, 7 years to let go of the past. And instead, you chose now, 2 weeks before our wedding, to go chasing after it. Do you even hear yourself? Do you realize how ridiculous you sound? She didn't answer. She just stood there, crying, begging me with her eyes. But I was done. I had nothing left to give. You ruined this, Rachel. My voice steady and calm. Not me, she sobbed. Don't do this. Don't throw us away. I'm not the one who threw us away, I said, stepping back into the house. You already did that. Now you have to live. I started to close the door, reached out, grabbing the edge. Jackson, please, I'll do anything. Just let me explain. This is over, Rachel. We're over. I closed the door and locked it, and for the first time, I felt I could breathe. Final update. Hey, everyone. This is the last update to the chaos that's been my life for the past few weeks. Buckle up, because things didn't just fizzle out quietly. Rachel found new ways to make a mess, and let's just say, I'm more than ready to close this chapter for good. So, after I shut the door on Rachel that night, I didn't hear from her again. Not directly, anyway. I figured she'd gone back to her parents' house to sulk and spin her side of the story. At first, it felt strange not having any contact after 7 years together, but honestly, the silence was better than the drama. Or so I thought. Turns out Rachel wasn't content with just fading into the background. Since I'd blocked her on all social media and my phone, she decided to get creative. Remember that group message I sent to the wedding guests to let them know the wedding was off? Yeah, Rachel got a hold of that list. She started sending messages to those same people, trying to paint herself as the victim in all this. The messages were wild. A couple of friends forwarded them to me because they figured I'd want to know what she was saying. In these messages, Rachel claimed I'd overreacted, refused to talk things through, and threw away our relationship over what she called a misunderstanding. Oh, and she conveniently left out the part about sneaking off to Mexico and hiding it from me. According to her, she just needed a break and was pressured into going by her friends. Some of the people who forwarded me the messages said they were confused and wanted my side of the story. But honestly, most of them were on my side already. They saw through her act and told me they didn't buy her excuses. One friend even replied to her saying, "If you were so innocent, why'd you block him from seeing your close friends' stories?" That made me laugh. As for my parents, they were still a bit iffy on how I handled things at first. My mom couldn't stop with the whole 7 years is a long time to throw away line, and my dad, while quieter, was clearly unsure too. I didn't blame them. From their perspective, it probably looked like I was being impulsive. But then, Rachel's antics came back to bite her. Apparently, she couldn't resist venting to a mutual acquaintance who also happened to know about the guy she was cozying up with in Mexico. Long story short, word got back to my parents about the whole holding hands with the ex situation, and let's just say their opinions shifted fast. My mom went from, maybe you should give her another chance, to, you're better off without her, practically overnight. My dad? He just shook his head and said, well, that explains a lot. Rachel didn't stop at texting our mutual friends. She also tried to rope in some of my friends to advocate for her. One of my best friends, Eric, the guy who originally sent me the screenshot of her in Mexico, got a message from her asking him to talk some sense into me. Eric being Eric, he didn't hold back. He told her flat out that she was the one who messed up and that I owed her nothing. Apparently, she didn't take that well because she blocked him after his reply. Classic. The final nail in the coffin came when Rachel showed up at her parents' house unannounced, according to them, crying about how she had nowhere to go. Her parents, who had been trying to stay neutral in all of this, ended up calling me. They wanted to know if there was any chance I'd reconsider and at least talk to her. My answer? A polite but firm no. I told them I'd made my decision and that I wasn't interested in revisiting it. They didn't push after that. Since then, things have finally started to settle down. Rachel seems to have run out of steam, probably because most people saw through her act. I've been focusing on myself and getting back to the things I let slide during the relationship. It feels good to finally have clarity and control over my life again. Now I can honestly say I don't regret how I handled things. Rachel showed me exactly who she was, and while it hurt to realize that, it also made my decision a lot easier. Respect and trust aren't optional in a relationship, and once those are gone, there's no going back. Thanks for following along, everyone. I appreciate all the support and insight you've shared. This is officially the end of everything, and I'm ready to move on, and I hope she is too. Take care, and if you're ever in a situation like this, remember, you deserve better. Always. Story 3. My dad said, you have to work while your brother enjoys. It's that simple, and if you don't like it, get out. While mom backed him up. So I said, great, then I'll leave and you can pay your own bills. It's that simple. This is going to be a long one, guys, but stick with me because the ending is worth it. Grab some snacks because this story has everything. Entitled Parents, a Spoiled Golden Child, Financial Abuse, and some serious justice at the end. What's up, Reddit? I, 28 male, and this is the story of how my entitled family thought they could use me as their personal cash machine forever. Spoiler alert, they were dead wrong. Before I get into the crazy stuff, let me paint you a picture of my childhood. I grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio. My dad, Robert, worked construction making around $48,000 a year, and my mom, Sandra, was a stay-at-home mom who spent more time on Facebook than actually taking care of anything. My older brother, Tyler, is 6 years older than me and has been the golden child since day one. I'm not talking about normal sibling rivalry here. I'm talking about straight-up different treatment, like we were from different species. Tyler got a PlayStation 2 when it first came out for $320. I got a broken Game Boy Color that Tyler threw down the stairs. Tyler got brand new Nike shoes every school year. I got his old beat-up sneakers with holes in them that I had to stuff with newspaper. The bedroom situation was the worst, though. Tyler had this massive room in the front of the house with 2 windows, a walk-in closet, and enough space for all his stuff. I got the tiny room next to the bathroom that used to be a storage closet. I'm not even kidding. There were still shelves screwed into the walls when I moved in there. My bed was this ancient twin mattress that felt like sleeping on concrete. When I asked my parents why Tyler got the better room, my dad just shrugged and said, he's older, needs more space. My mom, Sandra, would roll her eyes and say, stop being jealous, Finn. Not everything has to be equal. But here's the thing that really got me. It wasn't just about the stuff. Tyler could do no wrong in their eyes. He failed 3 classes sophomore year. He's just bored, school isn't challenging enough. He got caught smoking behind the gym. Boys will be boys, at least he's not doing hard drugs. Meanwhile, if I forgot to take out the trash one time, I'd get a lecture about responsibility. The worst part was watching my mom Sandra kiss Tyler's behind constantly. She'd make his favorite meals, do his laundry, even clean his room for him. The woman treated him like he was some kind of prince. Looking back now, I realized she was basically training him to expect women to serve him hand and foot. Real healthy, right? My dad, Robert, was just as bad but in a different way. He'd work long hours in construction, come home exhausted, and just go along with whatever Sandra said. He never stood up for me or questioned why everything revolved around Tyler. I think he was just too tired to fight it. The one bright spot in my teenage years was meeting my buddy Jake freshman year of high school. This dude was hilarious and had zero filter. Exactly what I needed in my life. Jake came from a normal family where both parents worked and all the kids had to pull their weight. When he first came over to my house and saw how Tyler was treated, he was shocked. Bro, your brother is 20 years old and your mom is still cutting his food for him, Jake said one day after dinner. That's not normal, dude. My mom would have kicked my butt out the door by now if I acted like that. Jake became my reality check. He'd point out all the ridiculous stuff my family did that I thought was normal. Like when Tyler got a brand new mountain bike for his birthday and I got a $10 gift card to Subway, Jake was like, dude, that's some serious garbage right there. Your parents are straight up playing favorites. The funny thing about Jake is, he had this way of making jokes that would cut right to the truth. He started calling Tyler his Royal Highness, and my mom the Royal Butt Kisser. My dad he called the ATM because all he did was work and hand over money to Sandra to spend on Tyler. Finn, you're living in a monarchy where you're the peasant, Jake told me one day. Your brother is the prince, your mom is the queen, and your dad is just the guy who pays for everything. Jake was also the one who opened my eyes to how messed up my mom really was. She was obsessed with appearances and status symbols. She'd brag to the neighbors about Tyler's achievements, like graduating high school with a 2.3 GPA, while never mentioning anything I did. When I made honor roll, she didn't even put it on Facebook. But when Tyler got a part-time job at GameStop that he quit after 2 weeks, she posted about it like he'd won the Nobel Prize. Your mom's a gold digger who married your dad for his paycheck, Jake said bluntly. And now she's raising Tyler to be just like her, entitled and lazy. Jake would come over just to watch the circus that was my family dynamics. He'd sit there eating dinner with us, watching Sandra serve Tyler like he was royalty while I had to get my own food, and just shake his head in disbelief. This is like watching a nature documentary about dysfunction, he'd tell me later. Your family operates on a completely different set of rules than normal people. After high school, I got a job at an automotive repair shop as a mechanic's assistant. The pay started at $13 an hour, which wasn't much, but I was learning a trade and working with my hands. I actually enjoyed it. There's something satisfying about fixing things that are broken. Plus, the guys at the shop treated me with more respect than my own family ever did. My manager, this old-school mechanic who'd been working on cars for 30 years, took me under his wing. He taught me everything from basic oil changes to complex transmission work. Finn, he'd tell me, you got good hands for this work. Keep at it and you'll make decent money. It was the first time in my life an adult had said something genuinely encouraging about my abilities. Tyler, meanwhile, was 24 and still living at home doing absolutely nothing. His daily routine was like clockwork. Sleep until 2 p.m., stumble downstairs in his underwear, eat whatever Sandra had made for him, then plant himself on the couch for 8 hours of video games. After dinner, which Sandra would literally bring to him on the couch, he'd shower and go out with his friends until 3 a.m. Rinse and repeat. My parents just let it happen. Sandra would make excuses to anyone who asked about Tyler's job situation. He's exploring his options, she'd say, or he's waiting for the right opportunity. My Aunt Rosa once asked Tyler directly at a family barbecue what his plans were, and he just shrugged and said, I'm taking time to figure out my passion. The dude was 24 years old and talking about finding his passion like he was some kind of spiritual guru. Jake was there for that conversation and nearly choked on his soda laughing. Later, he told me, your brother's passion is being a professional mooch. He's already mastered that. That's when Sandra started hitting me up for money. It started small and reasonable. Finn, can you contribute $200 a month for groceries since you're eating here? Fair enough, I thought. I was living at home and eating their food. Then it became $350 for household expenses. Then $550 because money is tight. Each increase came with a sob story about rising costs and how hard it was to make ends meet. But here's the thing that really got me. The expenses only seemed to go up when Tyler wanted something. New gaming console? Suddenly the electric bill was higher and they needed more money. Tyler wanted to join a gym? Whoops, the car insurance went up and could I cover the difference? It was like Sandra had this magical ability to find new expenses every time Tyler had a new want. By the time I was 21, I was handing over $850 out of my $1,500 monthly paycheck to my parents. I was paying for groceries, utilities, car insurance for Tyler's car, that he crashed twice because he was texting while driving, and even the premium cable package so Tyler could watch sports. Meanwhile, Tyler contributed exactly $0 to the household. Jake was watching all this happen and getting more upset each month. Dude, you're basically Tyler's sugar daddy at this point, he said. You're paying for his entire lifestyle while he sits on his behind playing Call of Duty. Do you realize your brother has never had a real job? Like, ever? He was right. Tyler had worked exactly 2 weeks at a movie theater when he was 16, and he quit because he didn't like the uniform. That was it. his entire work history. The breaking point for Jake came when he found out Tyler had gotten a credit card in my dad's name and racked up $3,200 in debt buying stupid stuff online. Gaming equipment, expensive headphones, clothes he never wore, random electronics, just impulse purchases because he was bored. The credit card company had been calling my dad for weeks before he finally figured out what happened. Instead of making Tyler pay it back or face consequences, Sandra asked me to help out with the credit card bill. Are you insane? Jake exploded when I told him. Tyler commits credit card fraud and you have to pay it back? Finn, your family is straight up robbing you. But I was so used to it by then that it seemed normal. Jake started calling our apartment. We'd moved in together by then. Finn's ATM, because every month I'd get cleaned out by my family's emergencies. The worst part was how Sandra would frame these requests. She'd never just ask for money. She'd make it seem like I was being selfish if I didn't contribute. Finn, we're a family. Families help each other out. You don't want to see your brother struggle, do you? Or she'd get all emotional. I raised you boys to take care of each other. Don't you love your brother? Struggle with what? He was living rent-free, bill-free, and responsibility-free while I worked 50 hours a week. And love my brother? What was there to love? The guy who never said thank you? Never acknowledged that I was paying for his lifestyle, and treated me like I was his personal bank account. I remember one particularly annoying conversation where Sandra tried to explain Tyler's situation to me. Finn, you have to understand. Tyler is creative. Creative people can't just work any old job. They need to find their calling. You're more practical. You're good at fixing things, working with your hands. Tyler needs time to discover his artistic side. His artistic side? The guy's only creative accomplishment was making really elaborate excuses for why he couldn't get a job. I'm too qualified for entry-level positions, but I don't have enough experience for higher-level ones. Or my personal favorite, I'm waiting for a job that matches my energy and vibe. Jake heard this explanation and just stared at Sandra like she'd grown a second head. Lady, your son is 25 years old. At some point, creative people still have to pay bills. When I was 24, I got promoted to lead mechanic and started making $24 an hour. Good money for someone without a college degree. But instead of being happy for me, Sandra saw dollar signs. Finn, now that you're making more money, we need you to contribute more to the household, she said, the day after I told them about my promotion. Not congratulations, not we're proud of you. Just immediately asking for more cash. She wanted me to start paying $1,300 a month. That would have left me with maybe $450 for my own expenses after taxes. When I hesitated, Sandra went full psycho on me. You're so selfish, Finn. We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us? Your brother needs support while he figures out his life path. His life path? Tyler was 30 years old and had never held a job for more than a month. His life path was being a professional mooch. Jake was there when Sandra came to our apartment to discuss my new financial contributions. She rolled up in Tyler's car, that I paid the insurance for, wearing a new designer purse and fake nails that probably cost $120. Finn, honey, she said in this fake, sweet voice, family takes care of family. You don't want your poor brother to struggle, do you? Jake couldn't help himself. Struggle with what? He's 30 and doesn't have a job. How is that Finn's problem? Sandra turned on him with this nasty look. This is family business. You wouldn't understand. I understand that you're bleeding Finn dry to support your lazy son, Jake shot back. That's not family. That's exploitation. Sandra's mask completely came off then. Tyler has potential. He just needs time to find the right opportunity. Finn is good with his hands. Manual labor suits him. Tyler is meant for bigger things. That's when I realized Jake was right about her. She saw me as the dumb worker bee and Tyler as some kind of future CEO. In her mind, I was supposed to fund Tyler's lifestyle forever while he found himself. The conversation got heated, with Sandra listing all the ways Tyler was special and different, while basically calling me a blue-collar loser whose only purpose was to financially support my brother's dreams. She actually said that some people are born to work, and others are born to lead, and that I should be grateful to have a purpose. What exactly is Tyler leading? Jake asked. A guild in World of Warcraft? Sandra got even madder. Tyler is intellectually gifted. He's just waiting for the right opportunity to showcase his talents. Not everyone can be satisfied with getting their hands dirty for minimum wage. It's not minimum wage, I said. I make decent money. Decent for what you do, Sandra replied with this condescending tone. But Tyler has the potential to make real money. Executive money. He just needs family support while he positions himself for success. Jake just sat there taking notes on his phone. This is gold, he whispered to me. I'm documenting this crazy for posterity. What really got me was how Sandra talked about my job like it was beneath Tyler. I was good at what I did. I could diagnose engine problems that stumped other mechanics. I could rebuild a transmission from scratch. But in Sandra's mind, working with my hands made me less valuable than Tyler, who had literally never accomplished anything in his life. You know what your problem is, Sandra, Jake finally said. You think Tyler's going to be your meal ticket. You're betting everything on him making it big someday so you can live in luxury. But newsflash, he's 30 years old, and his biggest accomplishment is reaching level 80 in some video game. You don't know anything about my son's potential, Sandra snapped. I know he's never held a job, never paid a bill, and never taken responsibility for anything. That's not potential. That's learned helplessness. Sandra stood up to leave, but Jake wasn't done. And another thing, Finn doesn't owe you or Tyler anything. He's been supporting your household for years while Tyler contributes nothing. You should be thanking Finn, not demanding more money from him. Finn knows his responsibilities to this family, Sandra said coldly. What about Tyler's responsibilities? Jake asked. Or do those not exist? Sandra didn't answer. She just left, slamming our apartment door so hard it rattled the windows. After she left, Jake and I sat there in silence for a minute. Then Jake said something that really hit me. Dude, she doesn't see you as her son. She sees you as Tyler's employee. And Tyler doesn't see you as his brother. He sees you as his personal ATM. You're not family to them. You're just a resource to be exploited. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Jake had said, and I realized he was right. Every interaction with my family was transactional. Sandra only called when she needed money. Tyler only talked to me when he wanted something. My dad only seemed to notice I existed when the bills needed paying. I started paying more attention to how my family treated me versus how they treated Tyler. When Tyler wanted something, it was a family discussion about how to make it happen. When I needed something, I was told to figure it out myself. Tyler's wants became family priorities. My needs were my own problem. The really messed up part was how Sandra would twist everything to make me feel guilty. She'd say things like, family takes care of family, and we all have to sacrifice for each other. But somehow Tyler never had to sacrifice anything. It was always me who had to give up stuff, me who had to work extra hours, me who had to go without, so Tyler could have what he wanted. Things got really bad when I was 26. Tyler had been dating this girl named Brittany, who was basically a female version of him, entitled, lazy, and expensive. Sandra loved her because she thought Brittany was sophisticated. She worked part-time at a nail salon and drove a BMW her daddy bought her. Brittany was everything Sandra thought she deserved in a daughter-in-law. She dressed well, spoke with this fake posh accent, and knew how to play the game. She'd compliment Sandra's cooking, ask about her day, and act like Tyler was this amazing catch. Sandra ate it up. Finally, Tyler found someone who appreciates his qualities, Sandra would gush to anyone who'd listen. Brittany sees his potential. What Brittany actually saw was a guy whose family would pay for everything. She never paid for dates, never contributed to gifts, never even offered to split a dinner check. Why would she? Tyler's family, meaning me, was covering everything. Tyler decided he wanted to propose to Brittany with a $4,500 engagement ring. Not just any ring, it had to be from this fancy jewelry store downtown, because Brittany had mentioned she only wore quality pieces. Of course, Tyler had exactly $0 saved for this purchase. Guess who Sandra thought should pay for it? Finn, this is so important for Tyler's future, Sandra said when she pitched me the idea. Brittany comes from a good family. This could really help Tyler network and find a good job. I stared at her. How is buying his girlfriend a ring going to get Tyler a job? Her father owns several businesses. If Tyler marries into that family, he'll have connections. This ring is an investment in Tyler's future. Let me get this straight. I was supposed to spend $4,500 of my hard-earned money, so Tyler could propose to a girl whose dad might give him a job? This was Sandra's business plan? I told her there was no way I was paying for Tyler's engagement ring. That's when Sandra showed me exactly what kind of person she really was. Fine, be selfish, she hissed. But don't come crying to us when you're old and alone with no family. Tyler will remember who supported him, and Brittany will too. You're ruining your relationship with your future sister-in-law over money. She actually tried to guilt-trip me by saying I was jealous of Tyler finding love and that I was sabotaging his happiness because I was single. I'm not sabotaging anything, I said. If Tyler wants to propose, he can get a job and save money like every other guy in the world. You don't understand. Sandra said, getting more agitated. Brittany expects a certain standard. She's used to nice things. If Tyler proposes with some cheap ring, it'll send the wrong message about our family. What message? That we're normal people who don't spend thousands of dollars we don't have on jewelry? Sandra looked at me like I'd said something deeply stupid. Finn, image matters. When you're trying to move up in the world, you have to look the part. Brittany's friends all have expensive engagement rings. Tyler can't look cheap next to them. Jake was with me when this happened, and he just started laughing. Lady, you want your son to get married, but you can't even pay for the ring? What kind of backwards family is this? Sandra got so mad she started screaming. Tyler deserves better than this. He deserves a family that supports his dreams. Finn, you make good money now, and you're just being greedy keeping it all to yourself. Greedy? I've been supporting this household for 5 years. I pay for Tyler's car insurance, his food, his entertainment, his everything. How am I greedy for not wanting to buy his engagement ring too? Because he's your brother, Sandra yelled. And this is important. This could change his whole life. His dreams of doing nothing while his little brother pays for everything? Jake asked. Wow, what an ambitious dream. That night, Jake and I were eating pizza, and he said something that changed everything. Finn, you know they're never going to stop, right? Next, it'll be Tyler's wedding, then a house down payment, then his kids' college funds. They're going to bleed you dry until you have nothing left. He was right. I was 26 years old with no savings, no car. I rode my motorcycle to work. And no future, because every penny I made went to supporting Tyler's lifestyle. You know what you gotta do, right? Jake said. Cut them off completely. Go cold turkey. Let them figure out how to pay for Tyler's ring themselves. But I was scared. These people had trained me from childhood to believe that I owed them everything, that questioning their demands made me selfish and ungrateful. The thought of actually saying no to Sandra felt impossible. What if they're right? I asked Jake. What if I am being selfish? Jake looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Dude, you've been paying their bills for 5 years while your 30-year-old brother sits on his butt. If that's selfish, then I'm the Pope. The final push came when Sandra showed up at the auto shop where I worked. She cornered me during my lunch break in front of my coworkers and started this whole scene about how I was abandoning my family and being cruel to my brother. Finn, people are going to think our family doesn't support each other, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. What kind of brother won't help with his sibling's engagement? My manager had to ask her to leave, and I was humiliated. My coworkers were looking at me like I was some kind of deadbeat who wouldn't help his own family. Sandra had made me look like the bad guy in front of people who respected me. That's when I knew I had to get out. That weekend, Jake and I drove 3 hours to a different city and found an apartment. I put in my 2 weeks' notice at the shop, found a job at a bigger auto repair place, and told my parents I was done. Done with what? Sandra asked when I broke the news. Done paying for Tyler's life? Done being your ATM? Done being treated like my only value is how much money I can contribute to this family. Sandra's face went through about 5 different emotions. Shock, anger, denial, then back to anger. You can't do this, Finn. We depend on you. Tyler depends on you. Then maybe Tyler should get a job. You know he can't just work anywhere. He has standards. Yeah, well, so do I. And my standard is not paying for a grown man's engagement ring when he's never worked a day in his life. For the first few months after I left, my family tried everything to get me back. Sandra called crying about how much they missed me. Translation, missed my money. Robert called saying I was abandoning my family and that real men take care of their responsibilities. The first call came 2 days after I moved out. Sandra was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Finn, please come home. We can work this out. Tyler doesn't really need that expensive ring. We can find a cheaper one. It's not about the ring, Sandra. It's about everything. I'm not coming back. But what about the bills? What about the mortgage? Finn, we can't afford everything without your help. Then Tyler needs to get a job. He's 30 years old. You know Tyler's not ready for that kind of pressure. He's sensitive. He needs support, not demands. Sensitive? The guy who screamed at video games for 6 hours a day was sensitive, but the best was Tyler. He actually had the nerve to call me and say, Finn, this is really messing up my timeline. Brittany's expecting a proposal soon, and you're ruining everything. Jake was listening on speakerphone and burst out laughing. Dude, get a job and buy your own ring. I'm not built for regular jobs, Tyler said. I'm more of an entrepreneur. I'm working on some business ideas. What business ideas? I asked. Well, I'm thinking about maybe starting a YouTube channel or something. Or maybe an online store. I just need some startup capital. Startup capital for what? I don't know yet. I'm still in the research phase, but there's a lot of money to be made online if you know what you're doing. Jake and I were dying laughing. A 30-year-old man with no work experience was going to become a YouTube star to pay for an engagement ring. Tyler, how long have you been researching these business ideas? I asked. Like, 2 weeks. But I've been thinking about entrepreneurship for a while. I just need the right opportunity. 2 weeks of research consisted of watching YouTube videos about making money online and reading get-rich-quick articles. Tyler's business plan was basically step 1, start a business, step 2, profit. Meanwhile, without my $1,300 a month, my parents' finances completely collapsed. They couldn't make their mortgage payments, the utilities got shut off twice, and Tyler's car got repossessed because they couldn't afford the payments. Sandra had to get a job for the first time in 15 years, working at Target for $12 an hour. She was furious about it and blamed me for forcing her to work. She actually posted on Facebook about how ungrateful children abandon their families, with crying emojis. The Facebook posts were honestly hilarious. Sandra would write these dramatic things like, "Some children forget everything their parents sacrificed for them, and money changes people, even your own kids." Jake would screenshot them and send them to me with commentary. "Look at this one," he texted me. "A mother's heart breaks when her child chooses greed over family. Lady, your son is 30 and unemployed. Where's his family loyalty?" Tyler and Brittany broke up because he couldn't afford to take her anywhere or buy her the things she wanted. Apparently, she told him he was too old to be living with his parents without a job and dumped him for some guy who owned a car dealership. This breakup sent Tyler into a spiral. He called me crying, actual crying, about how I'd ruined his relationship. "Brittany left me because I couldn't afford the ring she wanted," he sobbed. "She said she couldn't see a future with someone who doesn't have their life together." Tyler, you're 30 and you've never had a job. Your life isn't together. But I was working on it. I had plans. If you hadn't abandoned the family, I could have proposed and figured the rest out later. Figured what out? How to pay for a wedding? How to support a wife? Were you planning to have kids and expect me to pay for them too? Tyler went quiet for a minute. Then he said something that really showed how delusional he was. "I thought we were a family. I thought families helped each other achieve their dreams." "What about my dreams, Tyler? When did anyone in this family care about what I wanted?" "That's different. You're good at working. You like your job. I like my job, but I also like having money left over to save for my own future. I like being able to buy things for myself sometimes. But you make good money now. You don't need that much." This was Tyler's logic. Since I made decent money, I didn't need it all. Whatever I didn't absolutely need should go to supporting his lifestyle. Jake and I followed all this drama through my dad, who would call me every few weeks to update me on the family situation. He wasn't asking for money. I think he was actually proud that I'd finally stood up for myself. He just wanted me to know what was happening. "Your mother's having a real wake-up call," Robert told me one day. "She's complaining about her feet hurting from standing all day at Target, and I told her, now you know how Finn felt working 50 hours a week to pay our bills. How's Tyler handling the real world?" Robert sighed. "Not well. He applied for a few jobs but keeps getting rejected. Turns out employers want people with work history and basic skills. He got frustrated after the third rejection and said job hunting was rigged against creative people. Tyler tried getting various jobs but couldn't keep any of them. He got fired from a fast food place for showing up late 3 times in his first week. He quit a warehouse job after one day because it was too physical, and the supervisor was mean to him. He got let go from a retail position for arguing with customers who didn't want to hear his opinions about their purchases. He's discovering that the real world doesn't care about his potential," my dad said. "Turns out employers want people who actually work." The best story Robert told me was about Tyler's interview at a local office supply store. Tyler showed up 20 minutes late wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt. When the manager asked about his work experience, Tyler said he was overqualified for entry-level positions, but would consider working there temporarily while he pursued his entrepreneurial ventures. The manager asked what kind of entrepreneurial ventures, Robert said, and Tyler started explaining his YouTube channel idea. He spent 10 minutes talking about how he was going to make money playing video games online. The manager just stared at him. Tyler didn't get that job either. Meanwhile, Sandra was struggling with her new reality. She'd never had to work a real job and was discovering how hard it actually is. She'd come home from Target exhausted and complaining about customers, managers, and coworkers. "She keeps saying how unfair everything is," Robert told me. "How she shouldn't have to work at her age. How Tyler needs time to find himself. How you're being cruel by not helping the family." But I finally told her the truth. What truth? That she created this situation. She spoiled Tyler so much that he can't function as an adult, and she treated you so badly that you had every right to leave. I told her if she wanted someone to blame, she should look in the mirror. This was the first time in my life that Robert had ever criticized Sandra's parenting or admitted that their treatment of me was wrong. It felt good to hear, even though it was about 10 years too late. 2 years later, I was doing great. I'd gotten certified as a master mechanic and was making $68,000 a year. Jake and I had saved up enough to buy a house together, as roommates, business partners. I was even dating this amazing woman named Ashley, who's a nurse. Life was good. That's when Sandra called me for the first time in months. But this wasn't a guilt trip call. This was a begging call. Finn, I know we had our differences, but we really need your help, she said, and I could hear desperation in her voice. Turns out Tyler had gotten arrested for trying to steal car parts from the shop where I used to work. He thought he could sell them online to make quick money. The idiot got caught on security cameras and was facing felony charges. He needs a good attorney, Finn. A decent one costs $18,000 just for the retainer. We don't have that kind of money. I put her on speakerphone so Jake could hear. He was making popcorn in the kitchen. Where's all that money you saved by not having to support me? I asked. Please, Finn, he's your brother. He made a mistake, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. Actually, stealing car parts is exactly the kind of thing that deserves prison, Jake called out from the kitchen. Sandra started crying. Finn, I know I wasn't always fair to you. I know I favored Tyler. But please, we need your help. Tyler's learned his lesson. What lesson? He's 32 years old and stealing car parts. That's not a mistake. That's who he is. Then she said the words I'd been waiting my whole life to hear. You were right about Tyler. You were right about everything. I should have made him get a job years ago instead of babying him. Jake came in with his popcorn, grinning. Sandra, let me ask you something, I said. When I was working 50 hours a week to pay for Tyler's car insurance, did you think about fairness then? No, but when I asked for help buying work boots and you said money was tight, but then spent $600 on Tyler's video games that same week, did you think about fairness? Finn, please. When you told me I was built for manual labor, while Tyler was meant for bigger things, did you think about how that made me feel? She was sobbing now. I'm sorry, Finn. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Tyler's going to go to jail because that's what happens when you steal things. You're going to keep working at Target because that's what adults do. And I'm going to keep living my life without any of you in it. But he's your brother. No, a brother doesn't let his sibling pay for his whole life while he does nothing. A brother doesn't steal from the place where his sibling used to work. Tyler's just some guy who lived in the same house as me. Finn, what if I pay you back? What if I work extra shifts and send you money every month until I've paid back everything you gave us? I almost laughed. Sandra, you made $12 an hour at Target. At that rate, it would take you about 15 years to pay me back. And that's if you gave me every penny you earned. I'll do it. I'll work 2 jobs, 3 jobs if I have to. The time for making things right was years ago, not when Tyler finally got arrested. I hung up and blocked their numbers. Jake was cheering with his mouth full of popcorn. 6 months later, I heard through my dad that Tyler got sentenced to 2 years in prison. Sandra had to get a second job cleaning offices at night to pay for his court fees and still couldn't afford a good attorney. So Tyler got stuck with a public defender who barely tried. My dad also told me that Sandra finally understood what Jake and I had been saying all along. She'd created a monster by spoiling Tyler, and now she was paying the price. She cries every night, Robert told me. Not just about Tyler being in prison, but about losing you too. She keeps saying she threw away her good son to protect her bad one. Story 4. This story is titled, My Parents Were Furious When I Cut Off the Family Bank, but they didn't see how my sister crossed the line for some joking about being the family bank. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay, so before I dive into this mess, you guys need some background. Fair warning, this is going to be long AF and probably a bit all over the place because I'm still pretty pissed about everything. Typing this out on my phone during lunch break, so sorry for any typos or whatever. I, 35 male, come from your typical loud Italian family in New Jersey. You know the type. Sunday dinners are mandatory, everyone's in everyone else's business, and your nonna will force feed you even if you're about to explode. Growing up, it was me, my older sister Sophia, 38 female, and our parents, both 65, in a cramped 3-bedroom house that always smelled like garlic and my ma's sauce. Sophia was always the special one. Ma and Pop basically treated her like she was God's gift to Italian Americans or something. She was the pretty one, the smart one, the one who was going places. Me? I was just the kid who was good with his hands and ended up in construction. Don't get me wrong, I make decent money running crews now, enough to live comfortable and maybe take one vacation a year if I'm lucky. But to Sophia, that made me the family disappointment. She never missed a chance to remind me how I settled for a blue-collar life while she went after her big dreams. Thing is, those big dreams mostly involved marrying rich and living the fancy life. She actually managed it too for a while. Met this guy Marco, 42 million, at some fancy wine tasting event. She used to crash those pretending to be more important than she was LOL. Guy had money, came from a good Italian family, the whole 9 yards. Ma and Pop were over the moon, their precious princess finally getting the life they thought she deserved. They had this huge wedding that Pop basically emptied his savings for, cause heaven forbid Sophia didn't get everything she wanted. I remember standing there in my rented tux watching her marry this poor sucker and thinking, well, at least she'll be someone else's problem now. Boy, was I wrong. Fast forward 5 years, and everything went to shit. Marco filed for divorce out of nowhere. Well, not really nowhere. I had my suspicions. See, there was this personal trainer at her gym she kept talking about. Always texting, always making excuses to spend extra time there. I never said anything, because you know how Italian families are about that stuff, but pretty sure Marco caught her doing more than just Pilates, if you know what I mean. The divorce was ugly. Like throwing plates in restaurants ugly. Yeah, she actually did that. Made the local paper and everything. Marco had a good lawyer and an ironclad prenup. Smart guy. Sophia got barely anything except some monthly support for their daughter Isabella, 9F. That's when the real fun started. Sophia was a mess, had no real job skills because she'd been playing trophy wife for years. She and Isabella needed a place to stay and money to live on. Now, in a normal family, the parents would step up, right? Help their daughter get back on her feet? Nope. Ma and Pop suddenly decided this was the moment to enjoy their golden years. They'd just retired and were planning all these trips to Italy to reconnect with their roots or whatever. They basically told Sophia they couldn't help cause they needed to find themselves, or some BS like that. Remember that emptied savings from the wedding? Yeah, apparently that was their one contribution to her adult life. So guess who got voluntold to step up? Yep, your boy Antonio. That's me, BTW, not my real name, but close enough. 'Cause I'm the one with the steady job and no responsibilities. Their words. Apparently being single means I got nothing better to do than bankroll my sister. At first, it was just supposed to be temporary. Just until she finds a job, Antonio. I just help with groceries for a few months, Antonio. Isabella needs new school supplies, Antonio. You know how it goes. Before I knew it, I was paying her rent. $1,600 a month for a decent place, cause God forbid Sophia live in a regular apartment. Utilities, grocery bills, plus extras for Isabella. Kid needed a laptop for school? Uncle Antonio's got it. Dance classes? Uncle Antonio will cover it. Birthday parties? You guessed it. I kept telling myself it was for Isabella. Kid's awesome. Smart, sweet, nothing like her mother. Not her fault her mom's a train wreck, right? Plus, in Italian families, you're supposed to help family no matter what. Ma drilled that into our heads since we were kids. Family first, always. Though funny how that only seemed to apply to helping Sophia, not me. This went on for 5 fucking years. 5 years of watching my savings disappear. 5 years of skipping my own vacations cause Sophia needs help with Isabella's summer camp. 5 years of Sophia looking down her nose at me while living off my money. The worst part? Sophia acted like she was doing me a favor by letting me help. Like she was giving me a purpose in life or something. She'd make these little comments at family dinners about how sweet it was that I was so invested in them. Always with this tone like she was talking about a kid's lemonade stand or something. But hey, I was raised to believe family helps family, so I gritted my teeth and kept writing those checks. Kept telling myself it was temporary. So about a year ago, Sophia finally landed a decent job. Like actually decent. Some HR position at a pharmaceutical company. Benefits, salary, the whole package. Think it was around $65,000 a year? Not exactly rolling in cash, but way better than the random consulting work she claimed to be doing before. Spoiler, she wasn't actually consulting anyone. I figured this was it. My chance to slowly back off from being her personal ATM. Told her I'd keep helping for a few months while she got settled in the new job. You know, be a good brother and all that. Make the transition smooth for Isabella's sake. That's when things got weird. First, it was small stuff. Sophia showing up to Sunday dinner wearing these designer shoes. Then a fancy new phone. Then a whole new wardrobe because apparently her old clothes weren't professional enough for her new job. Whatever, right? Maybe she got a signing bonus or something. But it kept escalating. Every week she'd roll up to Ma and Pop's house with some new expensive thing. Fancy handbags, jewelry, even talked about joining this super expensive gym because her old one didn't have the right atmosphere. Meanwhile, I'm still paying her rent and utilities because she kept saying she needed just a little more time to build up her savings. Quick side note, our Sunday dinners are like this sacred thing in our family. Miss One and Ma acts like you committed a crime against humanity itself. So every week I had to sit there and watch this circus. Sophia showing off her new stuff, Ma and Pop beaming at their precious princess, getting back on her feet, and me silently calculating how much of my money was going into her rent versus her shopping sprees. Aunt Maria, 64 female, was the only one who seemed to notice something was off. She'd give me these looks across the table, like she could tell I was about to lose it. Thank God for her BTW. Only sane person in our family besides me. So anyway, this went on for months. Me getting more and more pissed, Sophia getting more and more entitled. Then came the Sunday that made me snap. We're all sitting around the table. Me, Sophia, Isabella, Ma, Pop, and Aunt Maria. Ma made her famous lasagna, which Sophia always complains has too many calories now. Everything's normal, right? Sophia's bragging about some work thing, Pop's talking about their upcoming trip to Sicily, Isabella's playing with her phone under the table. Then Sophia drops this bomb. Oh, I'm thinking of getting this gorgeous Gucci bag I saw. It's only $500, and it would be perfect for client meetings. I almost choked on my wine. $500 for a freaking purse? While I'm still covering her $1,600 rent? I tried keeping calm. Really did. Asked her real casual like, that's a lot for a purse when you're still getting help with bills, don't you think? Her response? Man, I can still hear it in my head. She does this little laugh like I'm some stupid kid and says, don't be cheap, Antonio. A professional needs to look professional. Cheap. She called me cheap. Me who hadn't bought new work boots in 2 years because her rent ate my budget. Me who skipped my best friend's wedding in Vegas because she needed money for Isabella's summer camp. Me who hadn't been on a real date in months because every spare dollar went to her emergencies. The worst part wasn't even her saying it. It was everyone else's reaction. Ma and Pop suddenly got super interested in their plates. Isabella looked uncomfortable. Poor kid's used to her mom's BS by now. Only Aunt Maria seemed ready to say something. But I beat her to it. I set down my fork real slow, took a sip of wine, and just let it all out. Not yelling. I don't do that around Isabella. Just cold, hard truth. Let's talk about cheap, Sophia. Let's talk about how I've been paying your rent for 5 years while you buy designer crap. Let's talk about how our parents won't help because they're too busy finding themselves in Italy. Let's talk about how you look down on my simple job while living off it. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a meatball drop. Then I dropped the real bomb. I'm done. No more rent, no more utilities, no more groceries, no more nothing. You got a good job? Great. Time to be an actual adult and pay your own bills. Sophia's face went through like 5 different emotions in 2 seconds. Shocked, angry, scared, trying to figure out if I was serious. Aunt Maria actually started slow clapping. Straight up, way to go, Antonio, right there at the table. Ma looked like she was gonna faint. Pop wouldn't even look at me. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door, but turned back for one last shot. And Sophia? That $500 purse? Maybe spend it on rent instead. 'Cause I mean it. I'm done being your bank. Then I walked out. Aunt Maria followed me, gave me this big hug, and told me she was proud of someone finally standing up to Sophia's BS. You'd think after dropping a bomb like that, Sophia would have blown up my phone with angry texts or voicemails, right? That's her usual move. She once sent me 47 messages because I was 10 minutes late picking up Isabella from dance class. But nope, complete radio silence. Not a peep for a whole week. Weird thing is, that silence got to me more than her screaming would have. Like, I kept checking my phone expecting to see missed calls or something. Even my WhatsApp family group. Yeah, we got one of those. It's usually just Ma sending random prayer chains and food pics. Was dead quiet. Though Aunt Maria did send me a private message saying, they'll get over it. You did the right thing. I skipped the next Sunday dinner. Sent Ma a text saying I had to work, which wasn't totally a lie. I did pick up an extra shift. Could practically feel her disappointment through the phone. She sent back this passive-aggressive, that's fine. Isabella asked about you. But work is more important than family, I understand. Classic Italian mom guilt trip right there. Then Wednesday night around 9:30, someone starts pounding on my door. I'm already in my sweats, half asleep on the couch watching the game. Open up to find Ma and Pop standing there looking like I'd personally canceled Christmas. Ma barges in without even saying hi, typical. Starts pacing around my living room in her church clothes. They'd probably come straight from evening mass. Pop just stands there with that disappointed dad face he's perfected over the years. We need to talk about Sophia, Ma announces, like she's about to open peace negotiations or something. I grab a soda from the fridge, offer them some. They both give me that look like I just suggested we rob a bank. Fine, more for me. She's struggling, Antonio. Pop finally speaks up. Isabella doesn't deserve to suffer because of your stubbornness. I almost spit out my soda. My stubbornness? Let me get this straight, I say, trying to keep my voice level. You two, who've been taking cruises and wine tours instead of helping your own daughter, want to lecture me about making Isabella suffer? Ma's face does that thing where she looks like she's sucking a lemon. That's not fair. We're retired. We worked hard all our lives. You're young. You have a good job. And Sophia's your daughter, I shoot back. But I guess that only matters when it's convenient, huh? This sets off a whole thing. Ma starts going off about family responsibility, how I'm being heartless, how Isabella is an innocent child. Pop keeps throwing in these little comments about how this isn't how they raised me. The best part? They hit me with this gem. We don't enable her like you do. She needs to learn responsibility. I lost it. Like, completely lost it. Started laughing right in their faces. Oh, now she needs to learn responsibility? Where was this attitude 5 years ago when I started paying her bills? Where was this when she was buying designer crap with my money? Real convenient timing, Ma. Pop tries to cut in with some BS about how I'm being cold, how this isn't like me. I just walked to my door and held it open. Thanks for stopping by, I tell them. But this is how it's going to be from now on. Sophia wants to act like an adult? Time to pay bills like one? They left muttering in Italian under their breath, always a sign they're super pissed. Ma didn't even try to force leftovers on me, which in Italian mom language basically means I'm dead to her. Aunt Maria called me the next morning. Apparently, Sophia had been crying to everyone about how she might have to move to a dangerous neighborhood, aka anywhere without a Whole Foods nearby, because her cruel brother cut her off. Ma and Pop had been making the rounds at church, telling everyone how their once sweet son had turned his back on family. But here's the thing. Aunt Maria heard through her friend at the salon that Sophia had been bragging about some fancy vacation she was planning. A spa weekend or something. With what money? That's what I wanted to know. Then Friday night, I get this call from Sophia. Her voice is all sweet, like when she used to con Pop into buying her stuff when we were kids. Just wanted to let you know I'm moving out of the apartment next month, she says, like we're having a normal conversation. What? Can't afford it without me? I ask, probably sounding more smug than I should. Her laugh sends chills down my spine. Oh, I can afford it. I just found something better. Turns out she's moving in with Ma and Pop. They offered their guest room, so poor Isabella wouldn't have to live in some awful apartment. Sophia sounded so pleased with herself, like she'd won some kind of game. The next month, I got a call from my accountant. He told me to check my credit report right now. Apparently, my sister used my information to open new bank accounts. I immediately logged into my Experian account. My hands were shaking so bad I had to type my password 3 times. What I saw? Guys, I nearly threw up. There were 4 new credit cards opened in my name over the last 6 months. 4. All maxed out. We're talking thousands of dollars in charges to stores I'd never even heard of. Saks, Fifth Avenue, Nordstrom, some fancy boutiques in the city. Even airline tickets to Miami. Guess that explains her work trip last month. The total damage? $23,467. Let that sink in. $23,000. That's almost what I had managed to save for a down payment on a house. All gone because my sister decided to play identity theft. I'm not proud of what happened next, but I completely lost it. Threw my phone across the room, thank God for good cases. Punched a wall. Yeah, I know. Real smart move. My hand still hurts. And then just sat on my kitchen floor having what felt like a panic attack. Called Aunt Maria because she's the only one with any sense in this family. It's like 11 p.m. at this point, but she picks up on the second ring. When I tell her what Sophia did, she starts cursing in Italian, like the kind of words Nonna would have washed our mouths out with soap for. You need to call the police, she says. But here's the thing. Sophia has Isabella. If I press charges, what happens to my niece? She's the only innocent one in this mess. Spent the whole night going through the charges. Designer clothes, spa treatments, fancy restaurants. This witch was living the high life on my credit while I was eating ramen to save money. There were even charges for Isabella's private school tuition, which explains why Sophia suddenly stopped asking me for school expenses. The next morning, running on like 2 hours sleep and enough espresso to kill a horse, I called a lawyer. Guy specializes in identity theft cases. Cost me $400 for the consultation, but worth every penny. Here's the fun part. Sophia didn't even try to hide her tracks. Every single purchase was delivered to her address. She used her own phone number and email on the accounts. The lawyer said it was one of the most clear-cut cases of identity theft he'd seen. With this evidence, he says, she's looking at serious charges. But there's always a but. Since she's family, maybe we try negotiating first? He suggests sending her a formal letter demanding full repayment before we go the criminal route. Gives her one chance to fix this before I ruin her life, more than she deserves. But I think about Isabella and agree. So I call Sophia. My hands are shaking again, but this time from rage. Hey, Johnny! She answers all cheerful like nothing's wrong. How's my favorite? I cut her off. I know about the credit cards. Dead silence. Then, I can explain. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up for once in your life and listen. My voice is so cold I barely recognize it. You have exactly 1 week to pay back every cent. If you don't, I'm pressing charges. And Sophia, I have all the evidence. She tries the waterworks. But Isabella is the only reason you're getting this chance. 1 week, that's it. I hang up and immediately block her number. Then I send everything, the credit reports, the charges, delivery confirmations, to my lawyer. Just in case. Called my bank next, froze all my accounts, and started the fraud process. Had to take the day off work because this shit is basically a full-time job. The credit card companies want police reports, the banks want affidavits, everybody wants forms filled out in triplicate. Aunt Maria brings me lunch, homemade meatball sub, Italian comfort food at its finest. She sits with me while I'm on hold with yet another fraud department. You know she's going to run to your parents, she says. Let her. I'm done protecting her. So a week goes by, right? I'm checking my accounts obsessively, jumping every time my phone rings. Sophia tried calling from different numbers, but I blocked them all. Ma left me about 47 voicemails. Didn't listen to them. Learned that lesson after the great Christmas fight of 2019. Then, exactly 1 week later, I get this email from my credit card company. All the accounts have been paid in full. I'm sitting there staring at my phone like I'm seeing things. Had to read the email like 5 times. Called the company to verify. Yep, all paid off. Every last cent. I should have felt relieved, right? But something felt off. Sophia working as an HR rep at some pharma company, no way she had that kind of cash lying around. Unless Aunt Maria calls me that afternoon. You'll never believe what your mother just told me. Turns out Ma and Pop had drained their retirement savings to pay off Sophia's debt. Their dream trip to Sicily fund, gone. The money they'd been saving for their 40th anniversary cruise, poof. All of it went to paying off what Sophia stole from me. And guess whose fault that is according to them? If you said mine, congratulations. You understand Italian family logic. The next morning my phone rings. It's Ma. Haven't heard her actual voice in weeks, so I answer like an idiot. Are you happy now? She screams. Pretty sure my neighbors 3 doors down heard her. We had to give Sophia our savings, our retirement money, all because you had to be dramatic about a few credit cards. I almost choke. A few credit cards? Ma, she committed identity theft. She's your sister. Family handles things in the family. But no, you had to threaten her with lawyers and police like she's some criminal. She is a criminal. She stole my identity. She was desperate. And now we can't go to Sicily. We're stuck here all winter. And it's all because you couldn't handle this like family. I lost it. Handle it like family? Like you and Pop handled it when she needed help? Oh, wait. You were too busy enjoying your golden years to help your own daughter. But I helped her. For 5 years I helped her. And how did she thank me? By stealing my identity. You didn't have to threaten her. Ma sniffs. We could have worked something out. Like what? Another 5 years of me paying her bills while she shops at Saks? No thanks. You're not the son I raised, she says in that quiet, disappointed voice that used to destroy me as a kid. The son I raised would never turn his back on family. And I'm not the son you raised, I shot back. I'm better. I'm the son who finally stopped letting his family treat him like a doormat. She hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone starts blowing up with messages from random relatives. Apparently, Ma's been telling everyone how I forced them to spend their retirement money, how I abandoned my sister and niece, how I threatened poor Sophia with jail. The messages were wild. How could you do this to your parents? Your poor mother is crying. What kind of monster threatens his own sister? Isabella is traumatized. That one was rich. Isabella was at school and didn't even know what was happening. Then Sophia starts posting on Facebook about how family should stand together in hard times, with some BS quote about forgiveness. All our relatives eating it up in the comments, telling her how strong she is. I had to shut down my social media. But the real kick in the teeth? Sophia moves in with Ma and Pop that weekend. Rent-free, of course. Posts pictures of their family dinners with captions about true family sticking together. Even got Isabella to pose for these staged photos looking all sad, talking about how much she misses Uncle Antonio. Aunt Maria sends me screenshots because I've blocked everyone else. She's playing them like a fiddle, she texts. And they're letting her. Then Sophia pulls her masterstroke. Gets Isabella to call me after school one day. I always answer for Isabella. Uncle Antonio? Her voice is small. Are you mad at me? My heart just breaks. No, honey, never at you. Then why won't you come to dinner anymore? Mom says it's because you're angry at us. I had to grip my counter to stay calm. Using her own kid as a weapon. That's low even for Sophia. Isabella, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. This is adult stuff between me and your mom. I love you and that's never going to change. She sniffles. Mom says you don't love us anymore because you won't help us. That's when I hear Sophia in the background encouraging Isabella to tell me how sad she is, how much she misses me. I've never wanted to reach through a phone and strangle someone so bad in my life. So after Sophia pulled that stunt with making Isabella call me, I was ready to just wash my hands of the whole family. Except Aunt Maria, she's a saint. But then I get this text from Isabella's school. See, I'm still on her emergency contact list, so I get all the school announcements. They're doing this winter play, The Wizard of Oz. Isabella's playing Dorothy. She'd been practicing for months, way before all this drama started. Being Dorothy was like her dream role. I remembered her practicing Somewhere Over the Rainbow in my car when I used to drive her to dance class. The text has a link to buy tickets. I stare at it for like an hour, debating. Sophia would be there. Ma and Pop too, probably. Drama waiting to happen. But it's Isabella. Aunt Maria calls while I'm still thinking about it. You're going to that play. Maria, you know Sophia's gonna... I don't care if the Pope himself is there. That little girl needs someone in her corner who isn't playing games. I'll go with you. So I buy 2 tickets. Don't tell anyone I'm coming. Figure I'll slip in the back, watch Isabella shine, then leave before Sophia can start anything. Day of the play, I show up with Aunt Maria. Got Isabella these little yellow roses. Her favorite color, plus they kind of match the yellow brick road theme. We get there early, find seats near the back. Isabella was amazing. Like brought tears to my eyes, amazing. She spots me in the audience during Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and her whole face lights up. Worth every second of drama just for that smile. After the play, all the parents and family are gathering in the gym for this little reception thing. I'm planning to just leave the flowers with the teacher to give to Isabella, but then I hear Uncle Antonio. And here comes Isabella running full speed, still in her Dorothy costume. She crashes into me with this huge hug. I hand her the roses and she's beaming. You came! You really came! Then I hear it. That fake sweet voice that makes my skin crawl. Well, well, look who decided to show up. Sophia's standing there in some designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She's got this smug look on her face like she's won something. Really, Antonio? Flowers? Are you trying to buy her love now? I ignore her, focus on Isabella. You were amazing up there, kiddo. I'm so proud of you. But Sophia's not done. She crosses her arms, raises her voice so other parents can hear. You know, it's funny how you can afford flowers but couldn't find it in your heart to keep helping your family. People are starting to look. Isabella's smile is fading. Aunt Maria steps forward, but I put my hand on her arm. Are you seriously doing this? I ask Sophia quietly. Here? Now? Why not? She shoots back. You've already humiliated me in front of everyone. Might as well make it a full set. I start to walk away, trying to keep it civil. But then she says something that stops me cold. Isabella deserves better. She deserves an uncle who actually cares about her, not someone who uses her to make himself feel better. I turn back, my voice low but clear. You don't get to play that card, Sophia. Not after everything you've done. And I'm not going to stand here while you try to turn Isabella against me. She's not stupid. One day she'll see the truth. What truth? Sophia laughs. That her uncle abandoned her? That he threatened to send her mother to jail? The truth about the credit cards? I snap back. The gym goes quiet. The truth about how you stole my identity? How about the truth about why Marco really left? Sophia's face goes white. Yeah, I went there. Uncle Antonio? Isabella's voice is small. What credit cards? Sophia grabs Isabella's arm. We're leaving. Now. No. Isabella pulls away. First time I've ever seen her stand up to her mom. I want to know what's going on. Everyone's always fighting and no one tells me why. She starts crying. Real tears, not the fake ones Sophia coached her to use on the phone. My heart breaks all over again. I kneel down to her level. Isabella, listen. But Sophia yanks her away. But Sophia. Don't you dare talk to her! You lost that right when you turned your back on us. He didn't turn his back on anyone. Aunt Maria finally explodes. You stole from him after everything he did for you. The gym is dead silent now. Everyone watching this Italian family drama play out like it's a soap opera. Isabella's drama teacher tries to intervene, suggests maybe this isn't the place. Sophia uses this as her exit, dragging Isabella away while playing the victim card. See how they treat us? Your own family. I stand there watching them leave, feeling like the biggest failure. Aunt Maria hugs me tight. She needed to hear the truth eventually. She whispers. As we're leaving, I hear parents whispering. Sophia's spent months painting me as the villain, but tonight they saw who she really was. Small victory, but at what cost? So the day after the school play disaster, I get this call from Isabella. She's using her friend Lisa's phone because Sophia took her phone away after the play. Real mature, right? She's crying, and not the fake crying her mom taught her. Like real, heavy sobs that make my heart hurt. I hate it here, she tells me. Mom and Nona are always fighting about money, and they're always talking about you. And I just want everything to go back to normal. Turns out Sophia's been making everyone miserable at my parents' house, treating it like a hotel, leaving messes everywhere, staying out late. The Golden Child Act lasted about 2 weeks before her real personality came out. But my parents are stuck. They blew their savings on her credit card debt, so they can't even escape to Sicily like they planned. Can I come stay with you? Isabella asks. Just for a little while? Man, my heart breaks. You know I can't do that, kiddo. But listen, you can always call me. I don't care what your mom says. Then she says something that floors me. I heard mom talking to her friend about the credit cards. She stole from you, didn't she? That's why you stopped helping us? Kid's 9 going on 30, I swear. Too smart for her own good. Isabella, I say carefully. Sometimes adults make really big mistakes, but none of this is your fault. You understand that, right? She's quiet for a minute. Mom says you abandoned us, but that's not true, is it? You helped us for a really long time. 5 years, I tell her, and I would have kept helping if your mom hadn't made those mistakes. Is that why you don't come to Sunday dinner anymore? Yeah, kiddo, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. You're the best part of this whole crazy family. We talk for like an hour about school, about her friends, about how weird it is living with Nona and Nono. She's worried about her mom, but she's also angry. Says Sophia barely pays attention to her anymore. Too busy going out with friends and shopping. After we hang up, I call Aunt Maria. We come up with a plan. See, Maria's always been the family mediator. Even when we were kids, she was the one who could talk sense into people. She starts visiting my parents' house more often, specifically when Isabella's there. Takes her to Sunday school, teaches her to make proper sauce. Sophia still buys the jarred stuff, practically a crime in our family. I might not be able to be there physically, but I make sure Isabella knows I'm still in her corner. Send her books through Amazon. She's a big reader. Have long talks on the phone when she can sneak calls. Even helped her with a science project over video chat. Sophia tried to stop it at first, but here's the thing about Italian families. You don't mess with the aunts. Maria shut that down real quick. You want me to tell everyone at church what really happened with those credit cards? Suddenly, Sophia got real cooperative. As for my parents, well, that's complicated. Pop called me last week, first time in months, said they're struggling with Sophia living there. She's not looking for a job, not helping with bills, basically treating their house like a free hotel. Asked if I had any advice? I told him the same thing I've been saying for years. Sophia needs consequences or she'll never change. He actually listened this time. They're giving her 2 months to find a job and her own place. Ma's not happy about it, but even she's starting to see the light, especially after Sophia maxed out her credit card. Yeah, she hasn't learned. Isabella's doing better. She started standing up for herself more. Even tells Sophia off sometimes when she's being dramatic. Kid's got spine. Last week she made the honor roll. Sent me a picture of her certificate right away. Aunt Maria says she reminds her of me at that age. Strong but kind, she says. Like someone else I know. The family's still split. Some relatives think I'm the devil for not helping family. Others, especially after seeing Sophia's behavior at my parents' house, are starting to get it. The truth has a way of coming out eventually. Me? I'm doing okay. Finally started saving for that house again. Even went on a date last week. Sophia's not the only one who can move on with life. Aunt Maria's trying to set me up with her friend's daughter, because apparently this story needed more Italian family cliches. Isabella sent me a card last week. Drew a picture of us on the front, her in her Dorothy costume, me giving her the yellow roses. Inside she wrote, "Thank you for always believing in me. I'll always remember what you said. I'm strong." Yeah, I cried a little. Sue me. Look, I don't know if my family will ever be what it was before all this. Maybe it shouldn't be. But Isabella's growing up strong and smart, and that's what matters. She'll break the cycle, and I'll be there to help her do it. The right way this time. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Repeat my inbox again. Thanks for all the awards and support. Edit 2. Stop sending me recipes for revenge Italian dishes. I'm not going to poison anyone's food, even if the idea of extra spicy arrabbiata is tempting. Final update. For everyone asking, yes, I've seen The Sopranos. No, I'm not going to take care of it that way. This is New Jersey 2025, not HBO 1999. Story 5. This story is titled, "My Stepmother Demanded That I Pay Rent to Live in My Own House while her children lived there for free. When I refused, she tried to convince my father to kick me out, so I made her regret it." Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and support. I'll try to answer questions in the comments. Also, to the people saying this is fake, I wish it was LOL. And yes, I have proof, but won't share it for legal reasons. Edit 2. Since people keep asking, I'm 22 female, dad is 46 male, stepmom Karen is 43 female, stepbro Tyler is 25 male, and stepsister Ashley is 21 female. Yes, those aren't their real names for obvious reasons. Okay, so buckle up because this is going to be a long one. Seriously, grab some popcorn or whatever because there's a lot to unpack here. I've been holding this in for weeks and really need to get it off my chest. Some background info you guys need first. Trust me, it's important for later. I lost my mom to breast cancer when I was 8. It sucked obviously, but we managed. My dad was completely destroyed though. Like, he could barely function for the first year. My mom's parents, absolute saints BTW, stepped up big time. They basically moved in with us to help take care of me, while my dad worked through his grief and tried to keep his business running. Quick note about the house situation because it's super important later. My grandparents were pretty well off. Not like mega rich or anything, but comfortable enough to buy this huge 4-bedroom house in one of the nicer neighborhoods near Boston. The idea was that we'd all live together so they could help raise me properly. It worked great for a while, TBH, but then my dad met Karen, not her real name, but it fits her perfectly, LMAO, at some business conference in Chicago, about 2 years after mom died. He was there trying to expand his consulting business or whatever, and she was working as an event coordinator. According to him, they just clicked. I guess Karen saw her chance with a grieving widower who owned his own business, because she literally moved across the country to be with him after only knowing each other for like 3 months. And surprise, surprise, they got married within 6 months of meeting. Talk about red flags. Here's where it gets fun. Karen brought her 2 kids with her. Tyler, 25 million now, was 11 at the time and already a spoiled brat. Ashley, 21F now, was 7 and honestly wasn't too bad at first, but Karen turned her into a mini clone of herself over the years. My grandparents tried to be nice about it. They really did. But I remember overhearing them talking late at night about how they didn't trust Karen. They thought she was just after Dad's money. Plot twist, they were right. But they kept quiet for Dad's sake because he seemed happy for the first time since Mom died. The first few years were rough. Karen started small with her BS. Little comments about how the house was decorated old-fashioned. It wasn't. How the kitchen needed updating. It didn't. How my grandparents were set in their ways. They weren't. But then she got bolder. She started rearranging furniture without asking, threw out some of Mom's old decorations claiming they were collecting dust, and slowly started taking over the house. My grandparents were too polite to say anything, and Dad was too love-blind to notice. Then the chores started. At first it seemed normal. Everyone should help around the house, right? Except everyone turned into just me. Tyler was too busy with sports. He sucked at basketball, but Karen made Dad pay for private coaching anyway. Ashley was too young. Even though she was only a year younger than me, By the time I was 12, I was doing most of the cooking and cleaning. Karen would literally check the baseboards with her finger to see if I'd dusted properly. Meanwhile, Tyler's room smelled like a combination of Axe body spray and old pizza, and Ashley's floor was permanently covered in clothes she was about to put away. Here's the really important part that I didn't know until recently. Before my grandparents passed away, Grandma in 2019 from heart problems, Grandpa followed barely 3 months later because he couldn't live without her. They put the house in my name. Like, legally, it's mine. All mine. They must have seen this drama coming from a mile away and wanted to protect me. But I didn't know about it. No one told me. Dad knew, but I guess he didn't think it was important to mention. Spoiler alert. It was very important. Karen obviously had no clue either. Or she would have tried to get her name on the deed somehow. So for the past few years, I've basically been living as a servant in my own house. Cooking, cleaning, doing everyone's laundry. Yes, even Tyler's nasty gym clothes. While Karen sat on her ass watching Real Housewives and complaining about how I loaded the dishwasher wrong. Tyler graduated college 2 years ago. Barely. Pretty sure Dad paid someone off TBH and hasn't worked a single day since. He claims he's trying to be a content creator, but his TikTok has like 200 followers, and it's all just him doing those cringe dance trends badly. Ashley's in her 3rd year of college, supposedly studying business, but really just partying and posting aesthetic Instagram pics of her Starbucks cups. Dad pays for everything. Her apartment near campus, which she barely uses because she's always at home. Her car, which she crashed twice. Her credit cards, which she maxes out monthly. And there I was, working part-time at Starbucks while taking online classes, doing all the housework, and trying to save up money because Karen kept hinting that I needed to start contributing to the household. The day everything went down started like any other crappy day in my house. I had just finished an 8-hour shift at Starbucks. Some Karen, lowercase k LOL, yelled at me about almond milk, but that's another story. And I was exhausted. But of course, I still had to come home and cook dinner, because heaven forbid Tyler moves from his gaming chair or Ashley puts down her phone. I'm in the kitchen, making this pasta recipe I found on TikTok. NGL, it actually slaps. And Karen comes strutting in wearing one of her supposedly designer outfits. Pretty sure it's from Ross, but whatever. She's got this look on her face. You know the one? Like when a teacher catches you passing notes in class? Yeah, that one. She sits down at the kitchen island, watching me cook like a hawk. I'm already on edge because she always finds something to criticize about my cooking. Last week it was too much garlic. Literally impossible BTW. The week before it was too spicy. It was literally Alfredo sauce. Then she drops this bomb on me. We need to have a serious discussion about your living situation. I'm like, 'cause what living situation? I've been here longer than you, lady. But she continues, your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time you start paying rent. After all, you're working now, and it's not fair for you to live here for free while we cover all the expenses. Y'all. The audacity of this woman. I'm literally standing there, wooden spoon in hand, sauce probably burning. It was. Just trying to process this BS. Meanwhile, I can hear Tyler upstairs screaming about his KD ratio in COD, and Ashley's TikTok sounds are blasting from the living room. So I ask her, trying to keep my voice level because I'm petty, but not stupid, what about Tyler and Ashley? Are they paying rent too? She does this thing where she dabs her mouth with a napkin, even though she hasn't eaten anything. She learned it from Real Housewives, ISTG. Then she hits me with, well, that's different. They're my children, and they're still getting established in life. Tyler is working on his content creation career, and Ashley is focused on her studies. I almost laughed out loud. Tyler's content creation career consists of badly lip-syncing to trending sounds and playing Fortnite on Twitch for literally 3 viewers. Pretty sure one is his mom and another is his alt account. And Ashley's studies? Girl hasn't opened a textbook since freshman year orientation. But here's where it gets good. Karen starts laying out her reasonable rent requirements. $800 a month? In this economy? Plus utilities, plus I would still be expected to help out around the house, aka continue being their maid. I'm standing there, stirring this pasta sauce, and something in me just snaps. You know that moment in movies where everything goes quiet and clear? It was like that. All these years of being treated like Cinderella, all the snide comments, all the extra chores, all the times I had to wash Tyler's crusty gym socks or pick up Ashley's fake lashes from the bathroom floor. It all just hit me at once. So I turn off the stove, safety first LOL, put down the spoon, and look Karen dead in her over-Botoxed face. Let me get this straight, I say, and my voice is weirdly calm. Tyler, who hasn't earned a single dollar since graduation and spends his days yelling at 12-year-olds on Xbox, doesn't have to pay rent. Ashley, who maxes out her credit cards buying Sheen hauls and has never touched a vacuum in her life, doesn't have to pay rent. But I do? Karen's face does this weird twitchy thing, probably the Botox fighting with her facial muscles. She starts going on about how I'm more established and how family helps family, and some other BS she probably read in a Facebook mom group. That's when I decided to drop my own bomb. But first, I called everyone to the dining room, told Karen I wanted to discuss this as a family, used her own manipulative tactics against her LMAO. Tyler whined about leaving his game, and Ashley acted like getting off the couch was literal torture. But eventually, everyone was sitting at the table. The pasta was cold by this point, but I didn't care. I had lost my appetite anyway. Karen starts explaining her proposal to everyone, acting all official like she's some kind of CEO. Tyler's smirking, probably thinking about how he can spend his allowance on more V-Bucks now that I'll be paying the bills. Ashley's recording everything for her private story. Girl loves drama as long as it's not about her. And that's when I did it. That's when I said the words that changed everything. I'm not paying rent because this house belongs to me. The silence that followed. OMG. I wish I had recorded it. You guys, I wish I had a picture of their faces. It was like I'd just spoken an alien language or something. Tyler actually stopped mid-bite, his fork just hanging there with spaghetti falling back onto his plate. Gross. Ashley's jaw literally dropped. First genuine expression I've seen on her face since she discovered filters. But Karen? Oh man. Karen's reaction was priceless. You know that loading wheel you get when your computer freezes? That was her face. Like her brain literally couldn't process what I'd just said. Then they all started laughing. Like, full-on hysterical laughing. Good one, Tyler snorts. Pasta sauce on his chin. I swear this dude eats like a toddler. Did you get that from TikTok or something? Ashley's already got her phone out, probably thinking this would make great content for her Relatable Family Moments series, which has like 50 followers max. Karen's trying to laugh too, but I can see the panic starting to set in. She's got that look she gets when her credit card gets declined at Nordstrom Rack. Happens more than you'd think. What are you talking about? She tries to sound dismissive, but her voice is shaking. This house is mine and your father's. This is where it gets good. I just lean back in my chair, trying to channel that calm villain energy, and say, why don't you call Dad and ask him? Karen's fake nails start tapping on her iPhone screen so fast, I thought she might crack it. Kinda wished she would TBH, because guess who would have to go get it fixed? Ugh. She puts it on speaker because of course she does. She loves an audience when she thinks she's about to win an argument. The phone rings a few times and then Dad picks up. He sounds tired, probably because he was actually working while his stepson was building his brand or whatever. David? Karen's voice is all sweet and fake, like when she's trying to get an upgrade at a hotel. Ruby is telling some interesting stories about the house. She says it belongs to her. That's not true, right? The silence that followed? Deafening. You could literally hear my dad doing that thing where he clears his throat when he's uncomfortable. He does it a lot around Karen. Then finally, well, actually, my in-laws put the house in Ruby's name before they passed away. Boom. Karen's face went through more colors than my old mood ring from Claire's. First red, then white, then this weird greenish color I've never seen on a human before. What do you mean they put it in her name? She's practically screeching now. When were you going to tell me this? I didn't think it was important, my dad says weakly. Typical dad move TBH. Not important? Karen's standing up now, her chair scraping against the floor. You didn't think it was important to tell me that your teenage daughter owns our house? She hangs up on him mid-sentence. The phone hits the table so hard, I thought the screen would crack. Again, kind of hoped it would. Tyler's not laughing anymore. Actually, he's looking pretty pale. Probably realizing that all those times he told me to get out of his game room, it was actually my game room. Ashley's still recording, but now she's got this deer in headlights look. I can practically see the TikTok drafts being deleted in her mind. Karen's breathing like she just ran a marathon in her fake Louboutins. She's trying to compose herself, but I can see her hands shaking. Well, she says, attempting to sound calm but failing hard, this has clearly been a misunderstanding. Of course you don't have to pay rent, Ruby. Let's just forget this conversation happened. But here's the thing. I didn't want to forget. I was done forgetting all the BS they'd put me through over the years. Done being the family doormat. Done watching them live rent-free in my house while treating me like their personal maid. So I just smiled and said, oh, we're definitely not forgetting this conversation. In fact, I paused for dramatic effect. What can I say? I've learned from the best. I think it's time we had a serious discussion about your living situation. The look of pure terror on Karen's face? Better than any Christmas present I've ever gotten. But wait, it gets even better. Because while they're all sitting there processing their new reality, I can hear Karen's phone buzzing with texts from my dad. She's ignoring it, but I know exactly what's happening. He's probably panic texting her about all the legal documents my grandparents left, the ones that prove everything I just said. All right, so after that nuclear dinner scene, I went to bed feeling pretty good about myself. Like, you know that feeling when you finally stand up to your high school bully? Multiple that by 1,000, and that's how I felt. But Karen? Oh no, she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. So next morning, I'm about to head downstairs for breakfast when I hear Karen's voice coming from the kitchen. She's on the phone with my dad, on speaker because of course. And guess what she's doing? Y'all, this woman is literally trying to convince my dad to get me to move out of my own house. Here's the convo I overheard. And yes, I recorded it on my phone because at this point I trust these people about as far as I can throw them. Karen. David, you need to do something about this situation. Your daughter is becoming a problem. Dad. Sounding tired F. What do you want me to do? Karen. What about those out-of-state colleges she applied to? You could encourage her to go to one of them. Tell her it'd be good for her independence. The audacity of this woman. I swear to God. She's really out here trying to ship me off to another state so she can keep living in my house rent-free. But wait, it gets better. Dad, I don't know, Karen. Karen, using that syrupy, sweet voice she uses when she's manipulating someone. Think about it, David. She's young. She needs to experience life away from home. And honestly, dramatic pause, I'm worried about her mental health. All this anger she's carrying around, it's not healthy. Excuse me? The only thing affecting my mental health is living with the evil stepmother from every Disney movie combined. But here's the part that really got me. Dad, maybe you're right. I'll talk to her about moving out for college. It might be better for everyone. I literally had to bite my fist to keep from screaming. My own dad, who I've lived with my whole life, who I took care of after mom died, who I cooked for and cleaned for, just agreed to try to kick me out of my own house. So I did what any rational person would do. I walked into that kitchen like I hadn't heard a thing. Karen almost dropped her phone when she saw me. She was still in her silk robe, probably fake like everything else about her, holding her world's best mom coffee mug. Tyler and Ashley got it for her from the dollar store last Mother's Day, and she acts like it's fine china. Good morning, sweetie, she chirps, like she wasn't just plotting to get rid of me. I made coffee. First of all, she didn't make coffee. She put a K-cup in the Keurig I bought with my Starbucks money. Second of all, sweetie? Since when? Tyler stumbles in looking like a zombie, probably up all night streaming to his 3 viewers. And Ashley follows shortly after, already fully camera ready. Takes her 2 hours every morning, I kid you not. We're all sitting there eating breakfast, which I made BTW. Karen doesn't know how to cook anything that doesn't come from a microwave. And the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Tyler's shoveling cereal in his mouth while scrolling through TikTok. Ashley's taking pictures of her untouched avocado toast for Instagram. And Karen's pretending to read emails on her phone. But I can see she's actually Googling how to evict someone who owns your house. Not very subtle with the phone angle, Karen. That's when I decided to have some fun. Hey, Karen, I say, super casual. I was thinking about what you said yesterday about rent. She perks up like a meerkat, probably thinking I'm about to back down. I think you're right. People should pay rent to live here. The look of relief on her face lasted about 2 seconds before I dropped the bomb. So I've been doing some calculations. Based on market rates in our area, I think $1,200 per person is fair. That's $3,600 for you, Tyler and Ashley. Of course, that doesn't include utilities. Oh, and there will be a security deposit. Chaos. Absolute chaos. Tyler actually choked on his frosted flakes. Ashley's avocado toast fell face down on her new white crop top. Karma is real, folks. And Karen? Karen looked like she was about to pass out. You can't be serious, she sputters. We're family. Oh, I'm dead serious. And since you brought up family, I pull out my phone, where I've got the recording of her morning conversation with Dad queued up. Let's talk about your little plan to ship me off to college. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she was gonna faint. Tyler and Ashley are looking between us like they're watching a tennis match. So after I played that recording of Karen's phone call, things got wild. Like Jerry Springer level wild. Karen jumps up from her chair so fast she knocks over her precious world's best mom mug. Sadly, it didn't break. She's doing this weird thing with her face where she's trying to look angry, but her Botox is fighting back, And honestly, it's kinda hilarious. "You recorded me?" she screeches. "That's illegal." I just smile and say, "Actually, we live in a one-party consent state. I checked. Also, my house, my rules." Tyler's just sitting there with his mouth open, milk dribbling down his chin. ISTG, this dude never learned how to eat properly. Ashley's frantically texting someone, probably her TikTok group chat, where she pretends to be rich and unbothered. Karen starts pacing around the kitchen, her knockoff Gucci slides making that annoying flip-flop sound on the tile floor that I cleaned yesterday, BTW. She's muttering something about calling her lawyer cousin. You know, the one who specializes in real estate law, but actually just does DUI cases in some strip mall office. Then she tries a different approach. Suddenly, her voice gets all soft and concerned, like when she's trying to get a refund without a receipt. "Ruby, sweetie, I know you're upset, but this behavior, yeah, it's not healthy. Your father and I are just trying to help you. Maybe some time away would be good for you. There's this lovely college in Michigan." I cut her off right there. "Karen, let me make something very clear. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. The deed is in my name. And if anyone's going to be leaving, it won't be me." That's when she lost it completely. "You ungrateful little—" Not gonna repeat what she called me, but let's just say it wasn't very world's best mom of her. She starts going off about how she raised me like her own by making me their maid, how she sacrificed everything to be a good stepmom by shopping at TJ Maxx instead of Nordstrom, and how I'm tearing this family apart. What family? Meanwhile, Tyler and Ashley are having their own meltdowns. Tyler: "This is bulls. I'm not paying rent. I'm about to blow up on Twitch." Narrator: "He was not about to blow up on Twitch." Ashley: "Daddy won't let you do this. He loves us more than this stupid house." Spoiler alert, he doesn't. I just sit there, sipping my coffee. That I made because Karen still can't figure out how to use the French press, watching them spiral. It's like every bit of entitlement and privilege they've been harboring is just spewing out. Then Karen pulls out her trump card. She grabs her phone and starts calling my dad again, probably expecting him to rush home and fix everything like he usually does. But plot twist, I've been texting with Dad all morning. Sent him the recording, explained everything. For once in his life, he's actually backing me up. Kinda, in his own weak way. When he answers, he's on speaker again. Karen: "David, you need to come home right now. Your daughter is out of control." Dad, sounding surprisingly firm: "Karen, we need to respect that it's her house. Maybe we should start looking for a new place." The silence that followed. OMG, you could hear Tyler's brain cells trying to process this betrayal. All three of them. Karen's face goes through this fascinating journey. Shock, anger, disbelief, and finally, fear. Real fear. Because it's finally hitting her. She's about to lose everything. The cushy life, the free ride, the power trip she's been on for years. That's when she makes her biggest mistake. She turns to me, gets right in my face, and says, "Listen here, you little ba. I don't care whose name is on the deed. This is my house. I've lived here for 12 years, and no spoiled brat is going to kick me out. I will make your life hell perfect. Just perfect. Because guess what? I've been recording this whole conversation too. Not only that, but I had already talked to a lawyer. Shout out to r/legal advice for the recommendations. Turns out threatening the legal owner of your residence isn't a great idea. Who knew? Okay, so remember how I mentioned talking to a lawyer? Best decision ever. Turns out my grandparents didn't just put the house in my name, they set up this whole legal thing, trust, estate, IDK legal terms, that basically makes it impossible for anyone to contest it. My lawyer literally laughed when she saw Karen's legal threats in the texts I showed her. But let me back up a bit. The day after Karen's little meltdown, I went nuclear. Served them all with real eviction papers. Like official court documents and everything. The look on Karen's face when she got served? Priceless. She actually tried to refuse to take the papers, but apparently that's not how it works. Thanks, Reddit. Tyler's reaction was exactly what you'd expect. He threw his gaming chair down the stairs and broke it. Elmau karma. Ashley had a full Instagram live meltdown. Gained like 200 followers though. So congrats, I guess. But Karen. Oh man, Karen went full psycho. First, she tried calling every lawyer in town. Like, literally every single one. But here's the thing about small town lawyers. They all know each other. And after the first couple told her she had no case, word got around. Even her DUI cousin wouldn't touch it. Then she tried the social media route. Posted this long, dramatic Facebook status about how her ungrateful stepdaughter was trying to make her family homeless. But that backfired hard when one of my mom's old friends commented with receipts about how Karen had treated me over the years. Side note, shout out to my mom's friend Sarah, who's been keeping screenshots of Karen's BS for years. The hero we didn't know we needed. The best part? Karen's fancy friends from her country club started distancing themselves. Turns out they don't like associating with someone who's about to be homeless. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, Tyler and Ashley are having their own crisis. Tyler finally realized that being a content creator isn't actually a job when you have 247 followers and your main content is raging at Fortnite. He tried applying for real jobs, but turns out professional gamer, unofficial, doesn't look great on a resume. Ashley's sorority friends found out about everything because she posted it all on her private story, but has like 200 followers. Now they're all gossiping about how her designer bags were probably fake and her dad isn't actually rich. She's having a full identity crisis. But the real drama? That came when Karen tried her last desperate move. She waited until I was at work and tried to rearrange some things in the house. By rearrange, I mean she tried to take some of my mom's old jewelry that my grandparents had left for me. Unfortunately for her, I had already installed security cameras after the eviction notice. Again, thanks Reddit for the advice. Got her on video clear as day, trying to stuff my mom's antique necklaces into her tacky Michael Kors bag. Called the cops, filed a report, showed them the footage. Y'all should have seen Karen trying to explain to the police officer why she was just moving jewelry that didn't belong to her. Her fake tears didn't work this time, probably because her mascara wasn't even running. Waterproof makeup really ruins the dramatic effect. The officer was this older lady who took one look at the situation and was not having it, especially when Karen tried to play the "but we're family" card. Officer: Ma'am, attempting to steal from the legal owner of this house isn't a family matter. I didn't press charges yet, because honestly, having this on record for the eviction case is better. My lawyer was thrilled. Speaking of the eviction, remember how Karen always bragged about her investment accounts and how she was independently wealthy before meeting my dad? Yeah, turns out that was all BS. She has literally nowhere to go, and she's freaking out. She tried calling my dad's sister for help, but my aunt, who never liked Karen, just sent her a link to apartment listings in the sketchy part of town. I actually felt bad for half a second, until I remembered the time Karen accidentally donated my mom's Christmas ornaments to Goodwill. The worst part? My dad finally grew a spine. Kind of. He told Karen that if she doesn't leave peacefully, he's not going with her. Turns out 12 years of her toxic BS was enough even for him. I will update you guys when they leave. Final update. So after the whole jewelry theft attempt, Karen knew she was screwed. But being Karen, she had to make the exit as dramatic as possible. The day before the final eviction deadline, she tries one last power play. Calls this family meeting. LMAO, what family? And comes strutting in wearing her fake Chanel suit, the one with the obvious wrong pattern that she swears is vintage. She's got this whole speech prepared about how she's choosing to leave because she can't stand the negativity, or whatever. Karen starts this whole monologue about how she's taking the high road. Since when is being legally evicted taking the high road? Then she drops what she thinks is her trump card. Your father and I have decided to move to Florida. We just bought a beautiful house in Tampa, much nicer than this old place. First of all, they didn't buy anything. I literally saw her GoFundMe for Family in Crisis Needs Housing that got exactly $43 in donations, mostly from her MLM group. Second, my dad wasn't even there for this announcement because he was at a hotel. Turns out watching your wife try to steal your dead wife's jewelry is kind of a mood killer. Who knew? But here's where it gets good. While Karen's doing her fake graceful exit speech, the moving guys I hired start showing up. Like, right in the middle of her "this house was beneath me anyway" rant, there's these big dudes walking in with boxes and dollies. Karen's face does that weird frozen thing again. Botox plus rage equals comedy gold. She starts screaming about how she wasn't ready and needed more time to sort her belongings. The head mover guy, shout out to Mike, you're a real one, just looks at her and goes, "Ma'am, we have strict instructions. Everything gets packed and moved to your storage unit today. If you want your stuff, you'll need to take it up with the court." Y'all. She lost it. Full nuclear meltdown. Started grabbing random stuff, claiming it was family heirlooms, including my mom's ceramic bowl that she literally tried to throw away last year. Ashley's crying about her TikTok backdrop being ruined. Tyler's having a panic attack because he can't disconnect his gaming setup fast enough. But here's the best part. Remember that designer stuff Karen was always bragging about? The vintage bags and premium clothes? The movers start packing it up and half the labels are literally falling off. While all this is happening, I'm just sitting on my couch, drinking my coffee, in my house, watching them scramble. Posted a few updates to my private story, and suddenly all these people from high school are sliding into my DMs like, OMG, I always knew she was fake. Final inventory of what they tried to steal on their way out. 3 of my mom's necklaces, caught on camera. My grandma's china set, also on camera. The good coffee maker, bitch, I bought that with my Starbucks money. Every single towel in the house. Weird flex, but okay. The garage door opener, seriously? But you know what? They can have the towels. I already ordered new ones. Really nice ones that Karen would have said were too expensive while dropping $500 on her fake designer stuff. The actual eviction? Chef's kiss, perfect. They had to do the walkthrough with the sheriff's deputy present. Standard procedure, but extra satisfying. Karen tried to claim I damaged her things during the move. The deputy just pointed to my security cameras and asked if she wanted to file a false report. She shut up real quick. So where are they now? Karen and my dad are staying at her sister's 2-bedroom apartment in the next town over. Apparently it's not going great. Her sister posted on Facebook about ungrateful house guests who don't do dishes. Tyler had to sell his gaming setup to pay for a deposit on a room in some sketchy house share. He's working at GameStop now, which honestly might be good for him. Ashley moved in with her sorority sisters, but that lasted about a week before they got sick of her crying. Now she's commuting 2 hours to college from her mom's sister's place. Her latest TikTok is about being humbled, but still getting ratioed in the comments. As for me, the house is so peaceful now. Like, weirdly peaceful. No more fake designer perfumes smell everywhere. No more passive-aggressive notes about loading the dishwasher correctly. No more 3 a.m. screaming from Tyler's gaming sessions. I turned his old room into my home office. Already decorated it with actual designer stuff because I can afford it now that I'm not paying for their groceries. Ashley's room is becoming my dream closet, and Karen's meditation room, where she watched Real Housewives all day, is now my yoga studio. Dad calls sometimes. He's staying with Karen, for now, but honestly, he sounds tired. I think he's finally realizing what everyone else knew 12 years ago, that he married a gold digger who isn't even good at gold digging. Was I too harsh? Maybe. Do I regret it? Nope. They fucked around. They found out. Turns out karma doesn't care about your fake Gucci slides. Final update, my mom's best friend Sarah is renting one of the spare rooms now, so I'm not alone in this big house. She's teaching me all mom's old recipes and helping me replace everything Karen threw out over the years. Sometimes good things come from bad situations. Thanks for following this journey, Reddit. Y'all really helped me stay strong through this. Especially the legal advice folks. You guys rock. Edit. Holy crap, this really is the end. Thanks for all the support through this crazy journey. You guys are amazing. Edit 2. Stop asking me to post the security camera footage. I'm not trying to get banned, LOL. Final edit. Yes, this is real. No, I won't prove it because privacy. And yes, I'm in therapy now. Story 6. This story is titled, Soon-to-be Ex-Wife Demand. I took care of her baby with her brother-in-law, saying her body, her choice, so I also made my choice, but it destroyed her life. Hey everyone, the channel's been slowing down a bit, and I spend so much time finding these stories for you. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world and helps keep this journey going strong. Let's grow together. Now let's start the video. OP starts by saying, Alright, let me start from the beginning because I feel like this story has so many layers that even I have trouble wrapping my head around it sometimes. My soon-to-be ex-wife, we'll just call her Kay for now, and I are technically still married, but only because of the legal system. Where we live, you have to be separated for 12 months before you can actually get divorced, which honestly just feels like dragging out the inevitable at this point. During this cooling-off period, she was supposed to find her own place nearby to make 50-50 custody of our 3 kids easier. Now, why are we getting divorced? Well, Kay's twin sister, let's call her Jay, came up with this brilliant idea that Kay should be their surrogate. Jay and her husband, we'll call him B, have apparently been struggling to have kids. Totally sucks for them, I get it. But instead of, I don't know, using a regular surrogate or adoption or literally any other option, they decided that because Jay and Kay are twins, Kay was the perfect choice to carry their baby. Now, I didn't find out about this plan until way later. Turns out, this had been in the works for weeks before I even got a whiff of it. It wasn't like they sat down with me to have a proper conversation. No, that would have been too logical. Instead, Kay kind of casually mentioned it to me one night like it was no big deal. At first, I thought she was joking, I mean, who just decides to carry someone else's baby without talking to their partner first? But nope, she was dead serious. She had this whole speech lined up about how it was her body, her choice, and that I had no right to say no. And honestly, she wasn't entirely wrong. Her body, her choice, sure. But then she hit me with this ultimatum. Either I support her decision, or we divorce. She didn't say it in those exact words, but that was the vibe. Like, this is happening whether you like it or not. So either get on board, or get out. I was floored. It wasn't just the surrogacy itself that bothered me. Though, yeah, that was a huge part of it. It was the fact that this had all been planned behind my back. KJ and B had been scheming this whole thing for weeks, maybe even months, without even giving me a heads up. And now I'm just supposed to be cool with it? Yeah, no. I told her straight up, if she goes through with this, we're done. She acted like I was being unreasonable. She said I was overreacting, and that this was a beautiful thing she was doing for her sister. But I don't know, man. Call me old-fashioned, but I feel like if you're married, you shouldn't be making life-altering decisions without at least consulting your spouse. Especially when that decision involves, creating a whole-ass human being. Fast forward a few months, and guess what? She's pregnant. When she told me, I just nodded and said, okay, then walked out of the room. 2 days later, I filed for divorce. Apparently, this shocked everyone. Kay acted like she didn't see it coming, which honestly blows my mind. Like, I literally told you this exact thing would happen. What did you think? That I was bluffing? That I'd just magically get over it and be okay with raising someone else's kid? J and B weren't any better. They tried to guilt trip me into staying, saying I was abandoning my wife and that I should be supporting her during this beautiful journey. But here's the thing. They're the ones who wanted this baby, not me. So why is it my job to pick up the pieces now? I told them straight up, she's your responsibility now. It was like talking to a brick wall. They kept saying stuff like, but you're her husband. You vowed to stand by her no matter what. And I was like, yeah, well, she also vowed to respect me and not make massive life decisions without my input. So here we are. Anyway, that's how the separation started. At first, Kay acted like she didn't care. She was all high and mighty, saying she didn't need me and that she could handle this on her own. But as the months went on, it became pretty clear that she was in over her head. After I filed for divorce, things got real awkward in the house. Kay started acting like nothing had changed, as if I was still supposed to care about her pregnancy, or worse, like I should be involved in it somehow. Meanwhile, I was already mentally checked out. I mean, why would I invest any energy into a pregnancy that A, wasn't mine, and B, was the exact reason we were splitting up? The house dynamic got tense fast. Kay didn't move out because, surprise, finding a place in our area isn't easy, especially when you're pregnant. She kept saying she wanted to stay close for the kids' sake, but let's be honest, it was more about convenience for her. Every time she asked me for something, it felt like she was still expecting husband mode from me. Like, no, I'm not running to the store for pickles and ice cream at 11 p.m. anymore. That's not my job now. She started dropping hints about how stressful everything was and how hard it is to do this alone. At first, I just ignored her. I mean, what did she expect? Wasn't going to swoop in and save the day like I had during her previous pregnancies? Those were our kids, and this? This was entirely her and her sister's decision. I didn't sign up for any of it. Eventually, the hints turned into outright complaints. She'd say things like, I don't know how I'm going to do this without you, and it's not fair that I have to go through this alone. I told her, plain and simple, to call J and B. They're the ones who wanted this baby. They're the ones who made all these promises about how amazing the surrogacy journey would be. Let them step up. But of course, they were nowhere to be found most of the time. B in particular seemed to be checking out of the whole situation. He'd show up for the big stuff, like doctor's appointments, but day to day, he was MIA. When I asked Kay about it, mainly out of curiosity, not concern, she said he was busy taking care of Jay, who was still recovering from her car accident. Fair enough, I guess, but it's not like he didn't know this baby was coming. Shouldn't he have planned for this? Kay didn't seem to want to admit that B's priorities had shifted. She kept making excuses for him, saying things like, he's doing his best, or he's under a lot of stress right now. Meanwhile, she was leaning harder and harder on me, as if I was somehow obligated to pick up the slack. She'd ask me to help with little things, carrying groceries, setting up the crib, even rubbing her back when she was sore. Every time I told her no. Not my kid, not my problem. One night, things came to a head. She was sitting on the couch, rubbing her belly and sighing dramatically, clearly trying to get my attention. Finally, she said, you're still my husband. You could at least pretend to care. I snapped. I told her, "No, I'm not your husband anymore. Not in any way that matters. You made your choice when you decided to do this behind my back. Don't come to me now because you're realizing it's harder than you thought. Call B, call J. Call literally anyone else, but leave me out of it." She cried, of course. That's become her go-to reaction whenever things don't go her way. But at this point, I was immune to it. I told her I was going to bed and left her there sobbing on the couch. The next few weeks were more of the same. She'd try to guilt me into helping, and I'd shut her down every time. It wasn't just about setting boundaries for myself, though that was a big part of it. It was also about principle. If I started helping now, even a little, she'd take it as a sign that I was softening, and then I'd never be able to get out from under her demands. Things took another turn when the baby was born. I stayed out of it completely. Didn't go to the hospital, didn't visit, nothing. I told her ahead of time that I wouldn't be involved, so it wasn't like she didn't know. Still, she called me from the hospital, crying and begging me to come. She said she was scared, that she didn't want to be alone, that I was being cruel. I stayed firm. I told her to call B. She hung up on me. When she came home with the baby, that's when the real chaos started. It was like she thought bringing the baby into the house would magically make me care. Spoiler, it didn't. She'd leave the baby's stuff all over the place. Bottles in the kitchen, diapers on the couch, as if to force me into acknowledging it, but I didn't bite. I just stepped over the mess and went about my day. At night, it was even worse. The baby would cry and she'd come to my room, knocking on the door and asking if I could help just this once. I'd tell her no every single time. She'd get mad, stomp off, and then spend the next day slamming cabinets or muttering under her breath about what a terrible person I am. I'll admit, there were moments when I felt a twinge of guilt. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because the baby was innocent in all this. It's not the kid's fault that their parents are a mess. But at the same time, I knew that stepping in wouldn't actually help the situation. It would just enable Kay to keep relying on me instead of the people who actually wanted this baby in the first place. The final straw came when Kay outright demanded that I take a more active role. She said it wasn't fair that she was doing everything on her own, that I was being selfish, that I owed her this much. I told her, flat out, I don't owe you anything. This is your responsibility. Deal with it. That's when she really lost it. She called me every name in the book, said I was a heartless monster, that I'd regret this one day. Then she packed up a bag, grabbed the baby, and left. I didn't try to stop her. Update 1 point. Hey Reddit, so lots of you are asking for an update, so here it is. 2 days after Kay left with the baby, I thought, finally, this might actually be the break I need. I wasn't naive enough to believe she was gone for good, but for a couple of days, the house was quiet. No crying baby, no guilt trips, no arguments. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. But of course, nothing ever stays simple when Kay is involved. The calls started the next morning. First from her mom, then her sister. Yes, the same sister who masterminded this whole mess. And even her sister's husband. It was like they'd coordinated a campaign to wear me down. Every single one of them had the same talking points. Kay was overwhelmed, the baby was innocent, and I needed to step up for the sake of the family. Jay, her twin sister, was especially relentless. She left this long voicemail where she basically called me heartless for abandoning my wife during such a vulnerable time. Like, are you kidding me? This wasn't some surprise pregnancy that we'd both signed up for. This was her choice. A choice she made without consulting me, and a choice I explicitly told her I wouldn't support. I didn't respond to Jay's message. Honestly, what was the point? Then there was B, the baby's biological father. He tried to play the sympathy card, saying how hard things were with Jay still recovering from her accident. He even had the audacity to say, "We're all family, man. We should be supporting each other." Family? Are you joking? The guy barely lifted a finger during the pregnancy, and now he's acting like we're some kind of team? I told him exactly what I'd been telling everyone else. This isn't my problem. Step up and take care of your own kid. What really floored me, though, was Kay's mom. She's usually pretty reasonable, but even she was on Kay's side this time. She called me up saying how disappointed she was in me, that she raised me better than this, and that Kay was still my wife. I cut her off right there. No, she's not, I told her. She stopped being my wife the moment she decided to have another man's baby. If you care so much, maybe you should be the one helping her. Silence. She hung up after that. I think it finally hit her that I wasn't going to cave. A couple of days later, Kay came back. I knew she would eventually, but I wasn't prepared for the scene she brought with her. She walked in like she hadn't just called me every name under the sun before storming out. She had the baby strapped to her chest in one of those carriers, looking exhausted but defiant. I could tell right away she was gearing up for another round. She didn't waste any time. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the living room like she was about to give some kind of TED talk. I didn't even look up from what I was doing. "About what?" "About this," she said, gesturing to the baby like I didn't know what this was. "You can't just ignore us forever." "I'm not ignoring you," I said. "I've been very clear. This is your responsibility, not mine." She launched into this long-winded speech about how hard it was being a single mom and how unfair it was that she had to do everything on her own. She kept saying things like, "This isn't what I signed up for," and "I never thought you'd turn your back on me like this." I sat there, letting her talk. Because honestly, what was the point of arguing? She wasn't looking for a solution. She just wanted someone to blame. When she finally stopped, I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You signed up for this the moment you decided to carry their baby. Don't act like this is my fault." That set her off. She started yelling about how I was being cruel, how I didn't understand what she was going through, and how I'd regret this someday. The baby started crying, probably because Kay was yelling so loud, and she snapped at me to do something. I just shrugged and said, "Not my kid." She stormed off to the bedroom after that, slamming the door so hard it shook the walls. The baby kept crying, but I didn't move. If she wanted to scream and slam doors, fine. But I wasn't about to let her dump her problems on me. That night, she tried a different tactic. Instead of yelling, she came into the kitchen while I was making dinner and tried to play nice. She started talking about how she missed the way things used to be, how she still loved me, and how she wanted us to be a family again. She even apologized, sort of. She said she was sorry for how things turned out, but she still didn't take any responsibility for her choices. I wasn't buying it. I told her that ship had sailed. "You made your decision," I said. "Now you have to live with it." She started crying again, saying she didn't want to get divorced and that she couldn't do this on her own. I told her she didn't have to do it alone. She had J and B, but that wasn't what she wanted to hear. She wanted me to swoop in and save the day, just like I'd always done before. But not this time. When I went to bed that night, I could hear her crying in the next room. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad either. I felt nothing. And that's when I knew for sure it was over. Whatever love or connection we'd had was gone. She'd burned it all to the ground with her choices. The next morning, she tried one last Hail Mary. She came to me with the baby, looking desperate and sleep-deprived. "Please," she said, "just hold her for a little while so I can sleep. I haven't had more than 2 hours in days." I looked at her, and for a second, I almost caved. Almost. But then I thought about everything that had led up to this moment. How she'd lied, how she'd betrayed my trust, how she'd dragged me into a mess I never agreed to. And I said no. "Call B," I told her. "He's the father. He should be helping you." She looked like I'd slapped her. "You really hate me that much, don't you?" she said, tears streaming down her face. "I don't hate you," I said, "but I'm not going to let you guilt me into cleaning up your mess. This isn't my responsibility, and I'm done pretending it is." She left again after that, and this time, I think it might be for good. Her mom called me later, saying Kay was staying with her for now. I told her that was probably for the best. Maybe now I can finally get some peace. Update 2.0. Okay, it is my. Again, here is what's been going on. 3 days. After Kay left the second time, things settled down for a while, but not in the way you might think. The house was quiet, sure, but it wasn't peaceful. I had this constant nagging feeling that something else was coming, like the calm before a storm, and I wasn't wrong. About a week after she moved out, I started getting letters and emails from Kay's family. Not just the usual guilt trips and emotional manipulation, but full-on arguments, as if they were trying to wear me down with sheer volume. Her mom wrote me this long letter about how I was being unreasonable and how family always comes first. She talked about how hard things had been for Kay growing up, how much she sacrificed, and how I owed it to her to support her now. I read it, sighed, and tossed it in the trash. What was I supposed to do with that? Wasn't like they were saying anything new. They'd been on this "you're the bad guy" train since the beginning, and at this point, it was just noise. J and B, on the other hand, tried a more direct approach. B showed up at my house unannounced one evening. I opened the door, saw him standing there looking all awkward, and immediately knew this wasn't going to go well. "Hey, man," he said, trying to sound casual. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe and crossed my arms. "About what?" He shifted uncomfortably, like he was debating whether to come in or just run for it. Finally, he said, "About the baby. About everything, really." I didn't move. "Say what you need to say." He looked surprised, like he thought I'd invite him in or something. Not a chance. He started rambling about how hard things had been for him since Jay's accident, how he was trying to juggle everything, and how he really needed me to step up and help out for Kay's sake. For Kay's sake? I repeated, cutting him off. This has nothing to do with me. That's your baby. Your wife's sister agreed to this knowing full well what it meant. Why are you even here? He looked flustered. It's not just about the baby, it's about family. We're all connected in this. I couldn't help but laugh. No, we're not. You, Jay, and Kay decided all this behind my back. You excluded me, and now you're acting like I owe you something? Get real. He tried to argue some more, but I wasn't having it. I told him to leave and not come back unless it was to take full responsibility for his kid. He didn't like that answer, but he didn't have much of a choice. He left, muttering something about how I'd regret this. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Either way, it's not my problem. Meanwhile, Kay was still at her mom's, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally started to figure things out. But nope. Instead, she started using the kids as leverage. She called one night and asked if she could come over to spend time with them. I said sure because they're still her kids, and I'm not going to keep them from her. When she showed up, though, it was clear she had an agenda. She spent the whole evening talking about how hard things were for her, how the baby kept her up all night, and how she just needed a little help to get back on her feet. She even brought up the idea of moving back in, just until she could figure things out. I shut that down immediately. No, I told her. You made your choice. You don't get to come back here and act like nothing happened. She tried to argue, of course. She said it wasn't fair to the kids to keep their family apart, and that I was being selfish. I reminded her that she was the one who decided to blow up our marriage for her sister. You don't get to play the victim here, I said. You chose this. Now live with it. That was the first time I saw real anger in her eyes. Up until then, it had mostly been sadness, guilt-tripping, and frustration. But this was different. She looked at me like I was the worst person on the planet and said, "You'll regret this one day. I promise you." Then she grabbed her stuff and left, slamming the door behind her. The weeks that followed were surprisingly uneventful. I settled into a routine with the kids, focusing on giving them as much stability as I could. They asked about their mom sometimes, why she wasn't living with us, why things were different, but I kept my answers simple. Mom and I are figuring things out, I'd say, but we both love you very much. It wasn't a lie exactly. I still loved my kids more than anything, and I knew Kay did too, in her own way. But that didn't change the fact that we were on completely different paths now. She'd made her bed, and I wasn't about to climb into it with her. That said, I couldn't help but notice how much lighter I felt without her constant presence. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells or dealing with her drama. It was just me and the kids, figuring things out one day at a time. And honestly, it felt good. Then came the legal stuff. Divorce proceedings officially started, and that opened up a whole new can of worms. Kay's lawyer tried to paint me as the unreasonable one, saying I'd abandoned her during a difficult time and refused to help with the baby. My lawyer countered with the facts. The baby wasn't mine, I had no obligation to help, and Kay had made the decision to go through with the surrogacy despite my objections. It was messy, but I wasn't worried. The truth was on my side, and I had plenty of documentation to back it up. Texts, emails, even voicemails. All of it showed that Kay knew exactly what she was doing, and that I'd been clear about my boundaries from the start. Still, it was exhausting. Every time I thought I was done dealing with her drama, something new would pop up. Her family kept reaching out, trying to guilt me into making things right. Even J and B tried to mediate, as if they had any right to tell me how to handle my life. I ignored them all. I'd spent enough time cleaning up Kay's messes, and I wasn't about to start again now. Sacrifor. Through it all, one thing became crystal clear. I was done. Done with the guilt, done with the manipulation, done with the constant drama. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally in control of my own life again. And no matter how much Kay and her family tried to pull me back in, I wasn't going to let them. This was my chance to start over, to rebuild, to focus on the things that really mattered. My kids, my own happiness, and a future where I wasn't constantly cleaning up someone else's mess. And for the first time in months, I felt like that future was within reach. Final update. Hey guys, this is my last update. Here is what has been going on. After weeks of back and forth drama, I finally got a taste of what my life might look like without Kay's constant chaos. It wasn't perfect. I was still navigating how to balance work, being there for my kids, and the mess that was the ongoing divorce. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like things were heading in the right direction. Kay stayed with her mom for the most part, which made things less tense around the house. She still had her visitation days with the kids, and while I wanted to keep the peace for their sake, it wasn't always smooth sailing. During one of her visits, the kids came back talking about the baby. My youngest asked if their new sibling was going to live with us eventually. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I had to sit them down and explain, carefully, that the baby wasn't their sibling in the way they were thinking. I told them that the baby was staying with their aunt and uncle, and that while their mom had helped bring the baby into the world, it didn't mean they'd be living with us or playing the same role as a brother or sister. My oldest nodded, clearly trying to act like they understood, but I could tell they had more questions. My youngest just asked, "But why isn't the baby like us? How do you explain surrogacy to kids? How do you make them understand that their mom's choices had nothing to do with them, while also being honest without bad-mouthing her?" I did my best, but that conversation stuck with me for days. Meanwhile, I had my own life to sort out. The divorce wasn't just emotionally draining, it was financially draining too. Kay's lawyer was pushing for spousal support, arguing that she couldn't work because of the baby. My lawyer and I countered that the baby wasn't mine, that this was a surrogacy agreement she had willingly entered into, and that she had her sister and brother-in-law for support. It was an uphill battle, though, because the court kept wanting to consider the best interests of the children. Of course, I wanted what was best for my kids, but I wasn't about to let Kay use them as leverage to squeeze more money out of me. To make matters worse, her family started meddling again. Jay sent me this long, dramatic email about how I was punishing Kay for doing something selfless, and how it wasn't fair for her to be struggling while I was living comfortably. First of all, I wasn't exactly living in luxury. I was juggling work and raising 3 kids on my own. Second, Kay's struggles weren't my responsibility anymore. She made her bed, now she had to lie in it. Still, the email got under my skin. It wasn't that I cared what Jay thought of me, but it was frustrating that they kept spinning this narrative where Kay was some kind of martyr and I was the villain. I wanted to reply, but I knew it wouldn't do any good. They'd already made up their minds about me, and no amount of explaining was going to change that. One surprising thing that came out of all this was how much closer I got to my own family. My mom, who had been my biggest supporter from the start, stepped up in ways I didn't expect. She started coming over more often to help with the kids, whether it was cooking dinner, helping with homework, or just giving me a break when I needed it. She also wasn't shy about telling me when I was being too stubborn or when I needed to lighten up. I didn't always agree with her, but I appreciated having someone in my corner who wasn't afraid to call me out when necessary. Even my dad, who usually keeps his opinions to himself, had a few choice words about the situation. He told me, "You did the right thing by sticking to your guns. People like Kay will always try to guilt you into cleaning up their messes, but you don't owe her anything. Just focus on your kids. That's what matters." That became my mantra. Focus on the kids. Every decision I made, every interaction with Kay, every argument with her family, I filtered it all through that lens. What's best for the kids? How can I give them as much stability as possible in the middle of all this chaos? Kay, on the other hand, seemed determined to make things harder than they needed to be. She'd text me at random times, asking for favors, or trying to rope me into her problems. One day, she called me in tears, saying she couldn't afford daycare for the baby and needed me to loan her money. I reminded her, again, that the baby wasn't my responsibility. She hung up on me, and 5 minutes later, I got a text from her mom calling me heartless. This became a pattern. Kay would hit a roadblock, and instead of dealing with it herself or turning to J and B, she'd try to drag me into it. At first, I'd respond politely but firmly. Over time, I stopped responding altogether. It wasn't my job to bail her out, and I wasn't going to let her guilt me into thinking otherwise. Despite everything, there were moments when I almost felt sorry for Kay. She looked worn down every time I saw her, like the weight of her decisions was finally catching up to her. During one of our custody exchanges, she asked if we could talk privately for a minute. I hesitated, but I agreed. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said, not meeting my eyes. "For everything. I know I messed up, and I know I hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. I didn't know how to respond to that." Part of me wanted to say, "It's too late for apologies." Another part wanted to ask her why she didn't think about the consequences before going through with all this. But instead, I just nodded and said, "I hope things work out for you." She looked like she wanted to say more, but I ended the conversation there. I wasn't interested in reopening old wounds. Whatever guilt or regret she was feeling, that was her burden to carry, not mine. These days, I'm focused on rebuilding. The divorce is still in progress, but I'm doing everything I can to move forward. I've started setting boundaries with Kay's family. They don't call or email nearly as much anymore. And when they do, I ignore it unless it's directly about the kids. My lawyer is confident we'll get a fair custody arrangement, and I'm cautiously optimistic about the outcome. As for the kids, they're adjusting better than I expected. They still have questions, and I know it'll take time for them to fully understand everything. But they're resilient. They're the reason I get up every day and keep pushing through all the noise and nonsense. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that you can't control what other people do. You can only control how you respond. And as much as Kay and her family tried to drag me into their mess, I finally realized that it's okay to say no. It's okay to put myself and my kids first. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm starting to find my footing again. And honestly, it feels pretty damn good.